Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 16. Offering too much. The simplified style was very nondescript, and the result was very satisfying. Chen Fei calculated the number of steps he took every day. If he worked harder, he could even cultivate the water crossing technique to great completion in a day. At that time, Chen Fei's body movements would show obvious improvements. If he was diligent, it would probably only take him 4 to 5 days to fuse and cultivate all 4 body movement techniques. He would see if he could trigger a qualitative change at that time. Chen Fei put down the water crossing manual and picked up the Immortal Cloud Sword manual. The simplified version of the water crossing technique was expected. Now, the main thing was whether the interface could recognize the Immortal Cloud Sword technique and optimize it. If it were possible, then the gaping holes in high-end cultivation techniques would have a lower impact on Chen Fei. After spending a full 2 hours, Chen Fei was a little dizzy from reading by the candlelight. Fortunately, the information about the Immortal Cloud Sword finally appeared on the interface. Cultivation technique, Immortal Cloud Sword, incomplete. Discovered cultivation technique. Do you want to spend 50 taels of silver to simplify the Immortal Cloud Sword? Incomplete. It really is the Immortal Cloud Sword. I guess it's only to be expected that it is incomplete, but the cost to simplify it is a little high. Chen Fei's eyes lit up slightly. The first goal had been achieved. If it could be simplified, then the future was promising. He couldn't find an authentic, high-level cultivation technique, but he could probably find a lot of similar cultivation techniques. Interface, simplify Celestial Cloud Sword. Celestial Cloud Sword, incomplete, is being simplified. Simplification was successful. Immortal Cloud Sword, incomplete, rightward arrow Immortal Way. A sword technique appeared in Chen Fei's mind. The moves were elegant and agile, like lightning, and he delivered a sword attack when it was least expected. Chen Fei hadn't practiced it yet. He was just observing the sword technique in his mind and was somewhat intoxicated. Good swordsmanship. A moment later, Chen Fei finished absorbing the sword technique and couldn't help but sing its praises. Compared to the Immortal Way, the clear mountain sword at great completion was like a child's dance, so crude that it was hard to look at it. This Immortal Way is probably just one of the moves of the Immortal Cloud Sword, but it's already so amazing. How powerful would the complete Immortal Cloud Sword be? What kind of monster is it really? Chen Fei muttered to himself. The more he understood, the more he felt his own insignificance. Chen Fei shook his head slightly and shook off the strange emotions in his heart. His gaze once again focused on Immortal Way. If Chen Fei were to cultivate the sword technique step by step, with his current aptitude in the sword path, he would probably not even be able to reach the beginner level after a few months. He didn't know when he would reach perfection. However, it was a little out of place to use the perfected clear mountain sword to fuse with Immortal Way. Just like how he had fused the vitality pill with the healing pill. It was possible to fuse 2 pill formulas with different effects, but the result, in the end, was disappointing. The clear mountain sword could also be fused with the Immortal Way, but one had to be prioritized. The Immortal Way was of a higher level, so it would definitely be used as the main technique. That means Chen Fei would have to give up most of the perfected clear mountain sword. Moreover, Immortal Way was only one move, and it was more suitable to be used as a killer move rather than a complete sword technique. Chen Fei had not reached the level of understanding and breaking through sword principles, so it was very easy to be targeted if he were just a one-trick pony. In the end, Chen Fei had no choice but to separate the two again. Can the simplified cultivation technique be simplified again? An idea suddenly popped up in Chen Fei's mind. Thinking of this, Chen Fei directly gave a simplified command to the interface. 500 taels of silver. The information that popped up on the interface shocked Chen Fei. It could be simplified a second time, but it required 10 times the amount of the first time. Having money really makes people happy. Chen Fei took a few deep breaths and turned his gaze to the water crossing technique. He couldn't afford to simplify Immortal Way, but he could do it with the water crossing technique. Chen Fei wanted to see what the effect of the second simplification would be. Water crossing technique is being simplified for the second time. Simplification was successful. Water crossing technique, rightward arrow, leg shaking. Chen Fei's eyes widened slightly. Good heavens, this second simplified version directly changed from walking to shaking his legs. The difficulty could actually be reduced even further. Money was really omnipotent. That's why I have to work hard to earn money. Chen Fei couldn't help but cross his legs and slowly started to shake them. The next morning, Chen Fei went to Qingzheng Medical Hall as usual. He greeted the people he met along the way and went to the alchemy room. Chen Fei glanced at the interface. The experience points of the water crossing technique had long been perfected, and it was already very close to the level of great completion. At the same time, Chen Fei discovered that walking could still increase the experience points of the water crossing technique. In other words, after the cultivation technique was simplified twice, the first simplified cultivation method would still be in play. It was equivalent to giving you an additional method to increase experience points. Chen Fei was in a good mood. When he walked this morning, he could clearly feel that his body had become much lighter. It was obvious that the movement technique was taking effect. After starting the fire and setting up the furnace, Chen Fei began to refine healing pills. The price of the healing pill was still slightly higher than the vitality pill. As such, Chen Fei refined a batch of healing pills first and kept a portion for his own use or to buy and sell in the black market. Then, he refined a few more batches of vitality pills, keeping a portion that was enough for him to consume, and sold the rest. Compared to last month, Chen Fei intentionally increased the number of pills produced this month. If you improved a little, the people in the clinic would think that you were talented, but it wouldn't be so much, it raised unwanted attention. In the afternoon, when Chen Fei was taking a vitality pill to cultivate, Zheng Difang called him over. I went to ask the eldest miss today. After she found out about your talents, she also intends to nurture you. She plans to let you go to the medical center at the North Gate and become the assistant manager there. Zheng Difang picked up the teacup, blew on it a few times, and took a sip. Is it dangerous? Chen Fei frowned slightly. His first thought was that such a good thing would not fall into the hands of a person like him. He was talented in alchemy, but it wasn't to the extent that it would shock the world. How could he suddenly become the assistant manager of the medical hall? There's no danger, but it'll be a little cumbersome. Eldest Miss suspects that there's something wrong with Steward's son over there, so she wants you to go over and investigate. Zheng Difang pondered for a moment and said, you don't really have a background, and you have a certain level of pill refining ability. You can sit in this position without attracting too much suspicion. Don't be in a hurry to refuse. When Zheng Difang saw Chen Fei's expression, he could not help but laugh and said, to motivate you to go there, the eldest miss has decided to increase your share from 30% to 40%. At the same time, I can also give you the recipe for the Qi rejuvenation pill. If you can find evidence of Steward's son's misdeeds, I can even give you the pill formula for the light spirit pill. Chen Fei opened his mouth and swallowed his rejection. It wasn't that he didn't want to reject the offer, but the other party was offering him so much it was bordering on being a little too much. Chen Fei couldn't think of a reason to refuse. 30% to 40% would allow Chen Fei to save money faster. After discovering the second simplification function on the interface, Chen Fei knew that if he wanted to quickly increase his strength, money was indispensable. In fact, more money was better. Chapter 17. Showing off one's might. Steward's son is in the room at the moment. Shall I go and inform him? Lu Jun, who was beside Chen Fei, asked in a low voice in the medical center of Northern City. Ever since he heard that a new assistant manager was coming to Northern City's medical center, Lu Jun had been paying attention. As a fringe figure in the medical center, he could go further if he rode on somebody else's coattails. Since the new assistant manager was, as the title implies, new, there would be many things he was unfamiliar with. This was the best time for him to approach the new assistant manager to get close to him and become one of his subordinates. No need, we can revisit that when Steward's son is free. Chen Fei shook his head. This Sun Shu knew that he would come today, but he didn't make an effort to welcome him. Presumably, he either didn't have a good impression of this person who came out of nowhere, or he didn't care. Either way, it represented Sun Shu's stance. Chen Fei didn't mind. When he came to Northern City's medical center, gathering evidence against Sun Shu wasn't at the top of his mind. He just wanted to focus on refining pills, earning money, and raising his cultivation. As for the Zhang family's offers, Chen Fei had no intention of accepting them at all. Does Steward's son have any hobbies? Chen Fei walked around the pill refining room and turned to look at Lu Jun. Steward's son likes to kick. Lu Jun said with a strange expression. Kick. Chen Fei's expression changed slightly. What kind of strange hobby was this? However, when Chen Fei thought of himself, he reckoned that in the eyes of others, he should be even more strange. Spare me. I won't do it again. A loud cry came from the front. Chen Fei walked out of the alchemy room and came to the backyard. That was when he saw a few guards dragging a servant. The servant's face was bruised and swollen, and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. The servant was kneeling on the ground, kowtowing continuously, his eyes filled with fear. He was discovered hiding herbs, Lu Jun explained in a low voice when he saw Chen Fei looking over. Chen Fei frowned slightly. According to the rules of the medical hall, if a servant hid medicinal herbs, he would be crippled. Of course, in actual situations, such things were relatively rare. They would only beat up the servant and deduct 3 months of his salary to teach him a lesson. Cases where one was truly crippled were few and far between. Only second offenders would be like this. My child is sick. I honestly had no choice. I won't dare to do it again. Please spare me. The worker cried bitterly. Creak. The door of Sun Shu's room opened. Sun Shu slowly walked out and took deliberate steps to stand in front of the errand boy, looking down at him from above. Steward's son, I won't dare to do it again. I beg you. The errand boy kowtowed hard, and blood quickly flowed out of his forehead. I tend to make situations like these a one-off occurrence. A smile appeared on Sun Shu's face. The errand boy widened his eyes in fear. Just as he was about to retreat, a foot had already landed hard on the errand boy's palm. The errand boy cried out in pain, but Sun Shu was not moved at all. Instead, he began to grind his feet into the servant's palm forcefully. Blood quickly flowed out from the soles of his feet, soaking the soil on the ground. Spare. Crack. Before the servant could finish his words, Sun Shu kicked the servant's 2 arms, and the bones broke. Before the servant could react, his body had already fallen forward involuntarily. With another crisp sound, Sun Shu appeared behind the errand boy and stepped on the errand boy's calf. The bone shattered, and blood splattered everywhere. Don't say that I'm ruthless seeing that I left you a leg, Sun Shu said casually. The servant had already fainted from the pain. The guard beside him immediately splashed water on the servant's face to wake him up. Thank you. Thank you, steward's son. The servant's lips trembled as he looked at the high and mighty Sun Shu and said in a low voice. The corner of Sun Shu's mouth twitched. He turned his head to look at Chen Fei in the distance and slowly walked back to his room. Lu Jun subconsciously shrunk his neck. Sun Shu's gaze was too terrifying. It made people shudder. Chen Fei did not speak. He glanced at Sun Shu's back and then turned to look at the servant on the ground. This was the fate of people in this world. They struggled to survive, but they could lose everything at any time. Chen-Fei's original body did not want to become like this, and the current Chen-Fei naturally would not be like this. Only by returning the power to oneself could one avoid such an outcome. Chen-Fei began to officially take up his post in the Northern City Medical Hall. He also took care to display a harmless appearance. He did not express any opinions about the original medical hall and only focused on refining pills every day. Chen-Fei was still increasing the number of vitality pills he produced in each batch. He had the medical hall sell them so that he could earn the 500 taels faster. Chen-Fei was really obsessed with Immortal Way. At the same time, Chen-Fei simplified the Qi rejuvenation pill that he had just obtained. It was somewhat out of Chen-Fei's expectations. After the Qi rejuvenation pill was simplified, refining the vitality pill could increase his experience points. Chen-Fei had always thought that this was how it would be after merging cultivation techniques and making them simple. It turned out that it was also possible with pill formulas of the same origin. After all, half of the herbs needed for the Qi rejuvenation pill actually coincided with the vitality pill. This was probably the reason why it worked this way. He didn't need to cook anything. He was already refining the vitality pill. The experience points for the Qi rejuvenation pill was rising rapidly every day. At the same time, Chen-Fei did not stop practicing his movement technique. Finally, on the 5th day after he obtained the cultivation technique, Chen-Fei completed the fusion of the 4 movement techniques and cultivated them to great completion. Cultivation technique, cloud crossing, great completion. Compared to before, Chen-Fei had made great progress in both agility and speed. Chen-Fei had also seen some skin toughening stage martial artists sprinting. After a slight comparison, Chen-Fei found that his movement technique was far superior. However, Chen-Fei could not judge what level he was at now, and the current cloud crossing he had was far from the final destination. Chen-Fei wanted to continue to integrate other movement techniques into it. That night, Chen-Fei masked his face with a face cloth as he let loose and ran through Pingying County. The carefree feeling made Chen-Fei want to raise his head and roar in delight. However, he suppressed it. If he were to shout, the scene would probably change completely. As he ran into an alley, Chen-Fei's ears twitched slightly. At the same time, a faint smell of blood floated in the air. Chen-Fei subconsciously looked up. A person had unknowingly appeared standing on the wall of the alley. At this moment, he was looking at Chen-Fei with interest. Chen-Fei's eyes narrowed slightly. Although this person was also wearing a mask and dressed in dark clothes, he gave Chen-Fei a strange sense of familiarity. That mountain bandit. Chen-Fei suddenly reacted. Wasn't this the person he met outside the city some time ago? Pu Liao's injuries had not recovered yet, and no one knew how well he would recover. Little brother, why aren't you in bed sleeping as you should? Why are you running around? Jian Liang's faint voice sounded. Chen-Fei jumped back like a startled wild deer. In the next moment, a bright light appeared where Chen-Fei was originally standing. With a muffled sound, a flying knife appeared on the ground. At this moment, it was still shaking slightly. Chapter 18. Portrait. What a handsome movement technique. Jian Liang's eyes lit up slightly. He was about to continue speaking when he realized that Chen-Fei had already peeled out of the alley. Jian Liang smiled coldly. Just as he was about to chase after him to kill him, a sound suddenly came from the courtyard. Jian Liang frowned slightly. Hesitating for a moment, he turned around and rushed back into the courtyard. A moment later, Jian Liang stood on the courtyard wall again. The cuffs of his clothes were stained with blood. Jian Liang looked around and could no longer see Chen-Fei. Jian Liang was expressionless. He felt that he had seen that person somewhere before. However, if he had really seen that kind of movement technique, it would probably have left a deep impression, and he wouldn't have forgotten it. Jian Liang frowned slightly. As the night wind blew, the person had already disappeared from sight. A mile away, Chen Fei hid in a corner. After confirming that he hadn't been followed, he heaved a sigh of relief. How unlucky he must be to actually encounter these mountain bandits in the city. The family just now was probably doomed. Facing the mountain bandits, Chen Fei couldn't even protect himself. It was completely impossible to save them. I've gotten a little too smug, Chen Fei muttered to himself. If it weren't for the fact that his movement technique had reached great completion and had become almost instinctive, it would have been impossible for him to dodge Jian Liang's blade. My cultivation is still too low. Chen Fei raised his head and looked in the direction of the courtyard. I still have to continue to stack my movement techniques. The two didn't conflict and even complemented each other. He did not go to the black market immediately. It would not be a peaceful night, and Chen Fei planned to go to the stall owner the next night instead. The next morning, Chen Fei came to the clinic and heard a noise. What happened? Chen Fei was puzzled. Last night, a few large families in the county were wiped out. I heard that there was so much blood it painted the ground red. Lu Jun came in front of Chen Fei and said in a low voice. Chen Fei frowned slightly. Last night, he thought that the mountain bandits had only chosen one family. Now, it seemed that they were doing a sweep through the county. The county government is furious and has issued a huge reward. Anyone who provides useful information will be rewarded with 100 taels. Lu Jun continued, his eyes filled with eagerness. After all, 100 taels of silver was undoubtedly a huge sum of money for people like them. The real question was whether they would be able to see such a large amount of money in their lifetime. Chen Fei was also a little tempted, but he immediately suppressed it. Chen Fei couldn't afford to offend the mountain bandits. Moreover, the county government only said that they would give him 100 taels. When the time came, nobody knew how much they would actually give. It was even more likely that they would bring danger to him. However, simply brushing it off seemed to be letting the mountain bandits off too easily. Moreover, if no one suppressed the mountain bandits, they would probably come to the county to commit crimes again after a period of time. By then, Chen Fei might still find himself in another dangerous situation again. After encouraging Lu Jun a few times, Chen Fei went to the pill room and began to refine the vitality pill. After refining a few more batches today, Chen Fei would be able to raise the experience points of the Qi rejuvenation pill to the master level. That way, he could officially start refining the Qi rejuvenation pill. 15 minutes later, Chen Fei opened the furnace door, and a total of 5 vitality pills were lying inside. On the interface, Qi rejuvenation pill experience points reflected A+5. The experience points were calculated according to the number of vitality pills produced. If not for this, Chen Fei would not have been able to increase the experience points of the Qi rejuvenation pill to its current level in a few days. After putting the vitality pills into the medicine bottle and cleaning the pill furnace, Chen Fei started to focus all his energies on refining the second batch of vitality pills. The third batch, fourth, and fifth. After refining 5 batches of vitality pills, Chen Fei could not help but let out a breath of turbid air. Even though he had cultivated the vitality pill technique to great completion, it was still a little taxing to continuously refine pills like this. Chen Fei looked at the interface and smiled. Alchemy, Qi rejuvenation pill, Master 2/1000. I can refine the Qi rejuvenation pill now. As the medical hall valued Chen Fei's alchemy skills and also to show that they supported Chen Fei's pill refining, the medical hall specially provided a set of Qi rejuvenation pill medicinal ingredients for free to Chen Fei every day. At present, there were already 5 portions of Qi rejuvenation pill ingredients piled up by Chen Fei's feet. If everything went smoothly, he would be able to obtain at least a few Qi rejuvenation pills later. Chen Fei took a moment to adjust his breath. Then, he carefully cleaned the pill furnace and placed the medicinal ingredients into the pill furnace according to the pill formula. He was completely focused. After all, this was his first time refining the Qi rejuvenation pill. Chen Fei treated every change in the medicinal properties in the pill furnace seriously and made adjustments. 15 minutes later, a medicinal fragrance began to pervade the pill room, instantly overshadowing the remaining fragrance of the vitality pill. After yet another 15 minutes, Chen Fei opened the lid of the furnace. There was a pill lying quietly inside the furnace. Chen Fei carefully took it out and carefully observed the Qi rejuvenation pill. The outer layer of the pill was not smooth enough. If one looked carefully, there were still some fine medicinal ingredients that had not been completely fused. All these would affect the final effect of the Qi rejuvenation pill. If he were to sell it, he would have to do so at a lower price. However, these flaws could not stop a smile from appearing on Chen Fei's face. Even if the medicinal effect was slightly inferior, it was still much better than the vitality pill. If Chen Fei could take a Qi rejuvenation pill every day, the time needed to break through to the body tempering realm would be drastically shortened. The appearance of the mountain bandits had already made Chen Fei feel increasingly insecure. Opening his mouth and swallowing the Qi rejuvenation pill, Chen Fei sat cross-legged on the ground and began to circulate the wind-suspending breathing technique. Chen Fei's expression quickly became as calm as a mirror lake, completely immersed in his cultivation state. After an unknown amount of time, Chen Fei woke up. The fatigue from refining the medicinal pill earlier had long been swept away, and his entire person appeared to be in high spirits. Looking at the interface, Chen Fei could not help but smile. Realm, Skin Toughening, 593/1000. The Qi rejuvenation pill had increased his cultivation by 15 points. Originally, with the wind-suspending breathing technique and the vitality pill, Chen Fei still needed nearly a month to break through to the body-tempering realm. Now that he had switched to the Qi rejuvenation pill, he only needed half a month to do so, although he could only take one a day. Perhaps in the eyes of other martial artists, this reduction in time did not have much meaning. After all, the price of the Qi rejuvenation pill was dozens of times higher than the vitality pill. One Qi rejuvenation pill was worth 10 taels of silver. No bargaining. The 10 taels of silver only shaved the time needed by half a month, and it was too extravagant. However, as an alchemist, Chen Fei understood that the value of the medicinal herbs used by the two was at most double. The rest was completely the value of the technique. And now, Chen Fei had mastered this skill. If I want to earn enough money quickly, I'll have to sell some Qi rejuvenation pills in the black market. Chen Fei muttered in his heart, but his hand movements did not stop, continuing to refine the Qi rejuvenation pill. As night fell, the county government was brightly lit. Suddenly, a stone flew in and hit the wall, making a muffled sound. The bailiffs jumped into action when they heard the sound. They found an envelope under a stone. There was a portrait in the envelope. If one looked carefully, it was completely Jian Liang's appearance. It was lifelike and quite vivid. A few miles away, Chen Fei, who had learned how to sketch in his previous life, had already walked into the black market and arrived in front of the book stall. An hour later, Chen Fei left the black market. In the bag behind him, he had acquired another 10 basic movement technique manuals, 1 high-level movement technique manual, and 1 miscellaneous technique. This miscellaneous technique was a disguise technique. Not only could one change one's appearance, but according to the secret manual, one could also change one's body shape when cultivated to a high realm. Chapter 19. Bargaining. Being in disguise was Chen Fei's idea of being prepared. After all, he would have to sell Qi rejuvenation pills in the dark market in the future. If he went there with his current appearance, it would be very easy for others to recognize him. The black market was almost common knowledge among martial artists in Pingying County. There must be people from the Zhang family among them. Chen Fei still did not want to jeopardize his relations with the Zhang family, so it was very important to hide his identity. Disguise technique simplified. Simplification was successful. Face changing rightward arrow face washing. Awesome. Seeing the simplified result, Qianfei grinned and tested it out by washing his face. The experience points of the disguise technique really increased by 1. At the same time, some insights into the disguise technique appeared in his mind. Qianfei didn't waste any time. He washed his face with clean water more than 10 times in a row, and the experience points of the disguise technique slowly increased. A moment later, Qianfei stopped. The experience points gained from washing his face wasn't slow, but Qianfei wanted to go faster. According to his observations over the past few days, this simplified method actually had some tricks up its sleeve. Qianfei wet a towel and then wiped his face. The comprehension of the disguise technique in his mind increased, and Qianfei could not help but smile. In the following days, Qianfei took a qi rejuvenation pill every day to steadily push his cultivation to the peak of the skin toughening realm. At the same time, he continued to refine vitality pills to increase the experience points of the qi rejuvenation pill and gradually approach the stage of great completion. It could be foreseen that Qianfei would need more and more money in the future, and the qi rejuvenation pill would be his stable source of income. In between the refining of the medicinal pill, Qianfei did not stop cultivating his movement techniques. After integrating a 5th movement technique, the help that the new movement technique gave to Qianfei began to slowly decrease. The most obvious change was that after the new movement technique was integrated, the cloud crossing proficiency almost reached great completion. However, this situation was inevitable. After all, the function of the basic movement technique was relatively simple. When circulating strength, there were only a few routes that were used. It was already not easy for Qianfei to rely on these few basic cultivation techniques to cultivate his movement technique to this extent. However, Qianfei could also feel that a transformation of his movement technique was steadily approaching. Perhaps after he had integrated with the 10 newly bought body movement technique manuals, Qianfei's speed would reach a new level. He didn't neglect his alchemy and movement techniques. Naturally, Qianfei wouldn't forget about the newly obtained disguise technique. When he was free and wasn't refining pills or cultivating, Qianfei would always take a towel to wipe his face from time to time. In just a few days, the people in the clinic noticed Qianfei's strange behavior. Previously, they had heard that this assistant manager liked to cook. They had never seen him do so before, but now they realized that Qianfei seemed to be a little obsessed with cleanliness. There was no sweat on his face, and it looked extremely clean, but Qianfei would wipe his face from time to time. They felt that Qianfei was going to wipe his face clean off. Qianfei didn't care about these people's gazes. He loved cleanliness, so there was nothing wrong with it. As he watched the experience points of the various cultivation techniques continue to increase, his mind was filled with various inspirations. Qianfei was intoxicated by the feeling of being successful and knowledgeable. Something big has happened. Early in the morning, Lu Jun came to Qianfei and said mysteriously. Qianfei nodded, indicating for Lu Jun to continue. Remember that a few big families were killed in the county a few nights ago? Last night, the county government constables and bailiffs were dispatched to capture a person. Qianfei's expression changed slightly. No wonder he heard a commotion outside last night. Turns out all the hoopla was caused by this. Qianfei could not help but think of the portrait he had thrown into the county government. Did they catch him? They didn't catch him. I heard that the criminal didn't react in time at first, but when the constables got close, the criminal managed to beat up everyone close by quickly and ran away. Lu Jun shook his head in pity. After all, anyone would be afraid of such a ruthless bandit who had killed an entire family. They all hoped to catch him. Qianfei nodded slightly, understanding that the county government had underestimated Jian Liang's strength, which was why he had managed to escape. However, from another perspective, it could also be said that this reflected Jian Liang's formidable strength. It was not something that ordinary martial artists could compare to. He just didn't know if the bandits would restrain themselves or retaliate even more crazily. I heard that someone provided information to the station but didn't collect any reward. It's so much money. Such a waste, Lu Jun muttered to himself as he walked away. His eyes were filled with the desire for money. 10 days passed quickly, and the experience points of the Qi rejuvenation pill finally reached great completion. Not only did the number of pills produced after each batch increase, but they were also plump and round. This was already a high-grade Qi rejuvenation pill. In the entire Qingzhen Medical Hall, there were very few pill refiners who could refine Qi rejuvenation pills of this level. Each Qi rejuvenation pill was sold for 10 taels of silver. The cost of the medicinal ingredients was relatively low, so compared to the selling price, it was negligible. In 10 days, Chen Fei had also cultivated the disguise technique to perfection. His face could already change at will, and even his body shape could be adjusted slightly. Thus, Chen Fei had already fulfilled the conditions he had set for himself to sell Qi rejuvenation pills in the black market. The only thing that needed to be addressed was the problem of the source of the herbs. It was impossible for the various medical centers and medicine shops to sell medicinal herbs to Chen Fei in large quantities. After all, they had their own alchemists. There was no need to sell medicinal herbs like this. Therefore, Chen Fei needed to find another route. At the same time, Chen Fei's cultivation would probably complete a breakthrough in the next few days. At that time, Chen Fei would be a martial artist in the body tempering realm. Compared to the low level of the skin toughening realm, the body toughening realm at least gave Chen Fei some self-protection abilities. At the black market, I need a batch of medicinal herbs. Can you provide them? In front of the book stall, he was wearing a mask and a bamboo hat. At the same time, his face had changed. In particular, the corners of his eyes were deliberately elongated, and his figure was a little taller. The impression he gave others was that he was cold and unapproachable. With money, everything is possible. Qi Defeng looked at Chen Fei and felt a sense of familiarity. However, there were many people coming and going in the black market, so it was normal for them to be familiar with each other. I want 10 portions of these herbs. Chen Fei handed over the list that he had written. Qi Defeng took it and looked at it a few times before saying, "These can be easily obtained. I'll sell it to you at twice the market price and deliver the goods in 6 days. How about that?" Chen Fei wanted to roll his eyes, but he didn't say anything. He took the list from Qi Defeng's hands and turned to leave. He came to Qi Defeng to buy medicinal herbs mainly because he was familiar with him. It wasn't like he needed to find the herbs, he could still gather enough medicinal herbs from other places. "Sai, don't go. The price can be negotiated." Qi Defeng hurriedly urged him to stay. What was wrong with people these days? They didn't even want to negotiate the price. They were really not like before. It wasn't so difficult to do business in the past. 1.5 times the market price. The difference should be more than enough as payment to you. Chen Fei turned around and said, "It's chaotic outside now, and it's not easy to find medicinal herbs." Qi Defeng shook his head. "There are so many refugees. If you are willing to give them money, they will naturally help you find medicinal herbs." Not only did the number of refugees outside Pingying County not decrease, but it actually increased. A few more counties had been destroyed, and the surroundings had become more and more chaotic. Rumor had it that an army had already gone to suppress them, but no one knew what the final outcome would be. Chapter 20. I take it back. Chen Fei and Qi Defeng bargained a few more times before settling on a price of 10% more than the market price. Chen Fei would pick up the goods at this time 6 days later. Chen Fei left the black market and returned to his rented courtyard with a smile on his face. Actually, even if the price of medicinal herbs was jacked up by 100% of the market price, it was not a big deal for Chen Fei. After all, after the medicinal herbs were refined into pills, the profits would have already increased by dozens of times. However, when doing business with others, it was impossible for one to agree to whatever price others said right from the start. The other party would not think that you were being generous but that you were easy to deceive. In the future, all kinds of trouble would come knocking on your door. Chen Fei took out a body technique manual from the foot of the bed and began to study it. He had already fused cloud crossing with the 13th secret manual. Every time he cultivated it to great completion, the time it took to get there got shorter and shorter. This meant that the new secret manual's enhancement to movement technique was already weakening at an accelerated rate. After 15 minutes, he finished reading the new manual, and Swallow's flight's information appeared on the interface. Chen Fei fused the perfected cloud crossing with Swallow's flight. Cultivation technique, cloud crossing, perfect 7325/10,000. He had just fused with it, and he was already close to perfection. This meant that there was less and less room for improvement. When he fused a new secret manual and reached great completion, it meant that there was no possibility of improving this cultivation technique. Originally, Chen Fei had thought of relying on the fusion of various low-level cultivation techniques to continuously improve and create an even stronger cultivation technique. It was undoubtedly a little whimsical. After all, when a beginner-level cultivation technique was created, the train of thought was very simple. Fortunately, the interface could simplify those incomplete secret manuals. Otherwise, Chen Fei really had no idea where to find new cultivation techniques. A few miles away. Help me kill someone. If you succeed, the debt you owe back then will be settled. Who is it? Qingzhen Medical Hall, Chen Fei. The Zhang family won't let this matter rest as we kill someone from the Qingzhen Medical Hall. Now that the bandits are running amok in the county, you can plant some evidence and push the blame on those people. Moreover, that kid is quite wealthy now, you're really getting a bargain. All right, I'll accept this mission. The room fell silent again. One of them left while the other limped towards the table. Under the candle light, a ferocious face was revealed. We went together that day. Yet, it was my leg that was broken, and I became a cripple while you assumed the cushy position of deputy manager. You've taken everything that's worth taking. The sinister murmurs were accompanied by the flickering candle light. 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. Pingying County was peaceful for a while. The bandits did not appear again. It seemed that they had given up on Pingying County. Chen Fei's cultivation had already reached a critical point. At the same time, he had fused 16 movement technique manuals, and he could no longer advance. Chen Fei simplified the high-level movement technique that he had specially collected and obtained a technique called the Fleetfoot. It wasn't a complete movement technique manual but a technique. According to Chen Fei's comprehension, using this technique would increase one's running speed for a short period of time. It would drain his energy, but there would be no other serious sequelae. Chen Fei was overjoyed, and without hesitation, he fused this technique into cloud crossing. The current cloud crossing was extremely well-rounded after fusing more than a dozen physical techniques. The fusion of the two didn't make cloud crossing look like a monster. Instead, he gained an explosive secret technique. At the same time, his proficiency dropped to perfection, 8123/10,000. According to Chen Fei's current cultivation speed, it would only take 1 or 2 days for him to cultivate it to great completion. Cloud crossing can perfectly accommodate high-level movement techniques because it has fused with more than 10 cultivation techniques. If my sword technique wants to perfectly fuse with a sword technique like Immortal Way, other than the second simplified version, completing the fusion of the basic sword techniques could also be a solution. Chen Fei couldn't help but have this thought in his mind, but it was immediately overthrown by himself. Sword techniques were different from movement techniques. The Fleetfoot was actually more like an explosive state rather than a certain footwork. That was why they could be perfectly compatible. However, if I were to fuse the basic sword techniques to great completion, it would be beneficial for fusing other high-level sword techniques in the future. At the very least, it will be much more inclusive, Chen Fei muttered to himself. Now that his footwork had been upgraded to a new level, the next step was to cultivate and fight his enemies. There was no end to earning proficiency points. As for his cultivation, Chen Fei looked at the interface and noticed that it was only a few points away. Chen Fei couldn't help but sit cross-legged and circulate the wind-suspending breathing technique. The qi and blood in his body began to surge continuously. Chen Fei's skin began to turn slightly red. A warm current circulated on the surface of his skin and gradually seeped into his muscles. After some period of time, Chen Fei's body trembled slightly. A brand new power bloomed from within his body, and Chen Fei couldn't stop himself from opening his eyes. Rustling sounds came from the surroundings, and Chen Fei could see further in the darkness than he could before. The extreme tranquility of the night was mixed with many disturbing sounds. The two feelings blended together and filled Chen Fei's mind. There's someone. Chen Fei suddenly turned his head to look outside the door. After breaking through, Chen Fei felt a disturbance in the courtyard. There was someone hiding there. Chen Fei raised the long sword in his hand, opened the door, and walked into the courtyard. It was as if he was someone who couldn't fall asleep and who came out to relieve his boredom. Chen Fei's body moved to the left. A cold light flashed, and a flying knife plunged into the wall of the courtyard. At the same time, a black shadow leaped from the corner to the top of the wall to stare coldly at Chen Fei. The man in black did not say anything. Instead, he disappeared from his spot with just a slight movement of his body. Chen Fei looked at the back of the black-clothed man. Recently, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being secretly followed and observed. Chen Fei thought that it was probably someone sent by Sun Shu. But today, this person had hidden in the courtyard. When he realized that something was wrong, he launched an attack without holding back. Clearly, it was not a simple stalking. Fleetfoot. The qi and blood in his body flowed in accordance with a specific route, and Chen Fei felt his body suddenly become lighter as his surroundings seemingly slowed down. A breeze blew, and as the branches swayed, Chen Fei could clearly see how the leaves were shaking. In the next moment, Chen Fei stepped back with his right foot and appeared behind the black-clothed man in a flash. The long sword in his hand had already stabbed out. The man in black felt something strange behind him and turned around instinctively. He saw the long sword stabbing toward him, and his eyes were filled with fear and disbelief. How could Chen Fei be so fast? According to the information he received, he had just broken through to the skin-toughening realm. In addition, he had been cautious and had even followed Chen Fei for a few days to confirm his cultivation. He had not noticed anyone protecting him. Thus, he planned to kill Chen Fei today and end this mission. But now, what was going on with the movement technique and sword move that Chen Fei displayed? The blade pierced through his chest, and the man in black fell to the ground, his mouth full of blood. Chen Fei flashed to the side and looked down at the man in black before asking, "Who sent you? If you promise not to kill me, I'll tell you." The man in black covered his wound and said in a low voice, "Sure." Chen Fei thought for a moment and nodded. "Pu Liao, he asked me to come." The man in black gritted his teeth. He felt that he had been tricked by Pu Liao. When he returned this time, he would definitely make Pu Liao pay. Chen Fei frowned as he chewed on it. Why would Pu Liao send someone to kill him when he had done nothing to offend him? "Can I go now?" The black-robed man struggled to stand up. Chen Fei's sword had crippled his strength, but he could still move if he really tried. Looking at the man in black, Chen Fei shook his head slightly. He walked forward deliberately and said, "Any last words? What are you planning to do? You promised not to kill me just now. You can't go back on your word." The man in black screamed in fear. "I take it back." The sword light flashed, and the tip of the sword pierced through the man in black's heart. The man in black looked at Chen Fei in disbelief and slowly fell back. Chapter 21. Dissatisfaction. Drink up, all of you. In a restaurant, Pu Liao was toasting with a few people, his expression extremely carefree. It's getting late, and the shop is closing soon. Why don't we stop here today? A guard asked with a smile. We haven't even finished drinking yet. How can they close? Pu Liao turned his head and spat on the ground. The guards looked at each other, and someone secretly pursed his lips. Although Pu Liao was injured and his movement was hindered, the Zhang family didn't kill him. Instead, they kept him in Qingzhen Medical Hall. This was what the rest of Pu Liao's life looked like, although he had only broken a leg. Though he was still their leader, his reputation was not as great as before. After an hour, Pu Liao finally had his fill. Trembling, he limped back to his residence alone. It was late at night, and there were no pedestrians in the county. Pu Liao wasn't afraid and even snorted. In the past few days, he had been in a good mood. Even though he had injured his leg, he still couldn't hide his mood. This kind of binge drinking and eating had already lasted for several days. The old door opened with a sound. Pu Liao locked the door and lit a candle. Just as he was about to take a sip of tea on the table, he suddenly saw someone sitting in the corner. Pu Liao was immediately jolted out of his drunken stupor, and he broke out in a cold sweat. He gripped the long sword in his hand tightly and looked at the figure seriously. It was Chen Fei. Why are you here? Pu Liao was shocked, but he pretended to be calm as he questioned Chen Fei. His eyes flew left and right, trying to think of a way to escape. Chen Fei's sudden appearance here meant that the assassination attempt had failed. Chen Fei was clearly only in the skin toughening realm, so how could he be completely fine? Pu Liao couldn't understand what was going on, so he had to stabilize Chen Fei first. Why did you send someone to kill me? When we met those mountain bandits, I was the one who carried you back. Chen Fei looked at Pu Liao expressionlessly. This was something that Chen Fei could not figure out. If there was a grudge between the two of them, the biggest one was the matter of imparting the cultivation technique back then. Could it be that he had to let someone kill him just because of this? When did I send someone to kill you? Pu Liao looked at Chen Fei blankly and said, Who framed me? They're slandering me. Your mood is too different from usual. Looks like it really is you. Chen Fei tightened his grip on his sword and began to walk toward Pu Liao. Since he couldn't find out the reason, he didn't want to ask any more. In this world, there were many things that did not have reasons. It has nothing to do with me. Even if you want to kill me, you can't use such a lousy excuse. Pu Liao panicked when he saw Chen Fei approaching. He continued to shout as he retreated, Back then, I deliberately made things difficult for you when it came to imparting cultivation techniques. I can apologize to you and even set up a few tables at Talos Court tomorrow and admit my mistake in public. No need. Chen Fei shook his head. If the Zhang family finds out that I was killed, they will definitely open an investigation. Everything must be based on evidence. If you have evidence that I'd gotten someone to kill you, I'll gladly die by your sword. However, you've just casually found a scapegoat, and I'm not convinced. Pu Liao shouted in fear. Chen Fei stopped. Pu Liao heaved a sigh of relief when he saw this. He was about to speak when a cold light flashed in the dark room. Pu Liao's body suddenly stiffened, and a bloody line appeared on his forehead. He looked at Chen Fei, thinking that he had already talked some sense into Chen Fei and could escape this calamity. I don't need evidence. Watching Pu Liao die, Chen Fei's figure flashed and left the room. A moment later, Chen Fei returned to his rented courtyard. Looking at the bright moon in the sky, Chen Fei sighed slightly. He only wanted to cultivate quietly, but this world clearly did not give Chen Fei this opportunity. The next afternoon, the news of Pu Liao's death spread throughout the North City Medical Center. Could it be those bandits again? It's only been quiet for a few days, and they're here again. It's possible that it's not. The ones we killed before were all big families. Pu Liao is only a guard, he shouldn't be targeted. Who knows? Why don't we stay in the clinic for the time being? There are more people here, so it's safer. In the North City Medical Center, everyone was discussing animatedly. Lu Jun even specially come over to report this matter to Chen Fei. No one would link Pu Liao's death to Chen Fei, this alchemist. Many people knew that Chen Fei had just broken through to the skin toughening realm not long ago. His main focus was on refining pills, and he had no grudges against Pu Liao. No matter how one looked at it, there was no conflict between the two, and Chen Fei did not have the skills to kill Pu Liao. Chen Fei refined vitality pills as usual, increasing the proficiency of the Qi rejuvenation pill. He planned to go to the black market at night to collect the batch of herbs. As long as he got the herbs, Chen Fei could refine the Qi rejuvenation pill and sell it on the black market. Although last night's incident was not dangerous, Chen Fei's desire for strength continued to increase. Danger could knock on his door at any moment. Only by being strong enough could one avoid it. As evening approached, Chen Fei was just about to set up the furnace to refine the last batch of vitality pills for the day when he was suddenly informed to go to the Zhang family. Chen Fei was a little surprised. He thought of the eldest miss, Zhang Xinan. She might have wanted to ask about Northern City's medical center or Pu Liao's death. There was always a shadow of possibility. After packing up, Chen Fei went to the Zhang family. With a tall courtyard and a golden roof, and stone walls, the Zhang family's courtyard appeared majestic. This was Chen Fei's first time coming to the Zhang family's residence. He entered through a small door and followed a servant to a side courtyard. Chen Fei looked up and saw that Zhang Xinan was talking to Zheng Difang. "Greetings, eldest miss, greetings, elder Zheng." Chen Fei stepped forward and cupped his hands. "Are you used to staying at the North City Medical Center?" Zhang Xinan turned to look at Chen Fei and sized him up. Compared to the time when he was carrying out disaster relief, the current Chen Fei appeared to be much stronger and more pleasing to the eye. He was originally dark and skinny, which was unpleasing to the eye. If it weren't for his alchemy skills, Chen Fei wouldn't have been able to catch Zhang Xinan's eye no matter what. "Thank you for your concern, eldest miss. Everything is fine. Did you find anything in the Northern City Medical?" Zhang Xinan asked calmly. Zhang Xinan only remembered Chen Fei today after hearing about Pu Liao's death, as well as the mission she had given Chen Fei. That was why she thought she might as well call Chen Fei over and ask him. Steward's son has total control over the Northern City Medical Center. I rarely have the chance to interact with him, Chen Fei said honestly. Sun Shu is naturally cautious. It's normal for him to be on guard against Chen Fei's sudden posting to the Northern City Medical Center. Zheng Difang saw Zhang Xinan frown and tried to help Chen Fei. The truth was that Sun Shu did not trust Chen Fei at all. If Chen Fei hadn't been practicing alchemy honestly recently and hadn't interfered in other matters, the Northern City Medical Center wouldn't be so peaceful now. I told you before that if you find any problems, I can give you the pill formula for the light spirit pill. However, if you don't make any progress on this matter, I might have to let you return to your original place, and the ratio of the pills will also be changed back to the original 30%. Zhang Xinan was a little dissatisfied and said with a cold expression, "You better consider your position carefully. If there's nothing else, you can go back first." Zhang Xinan gave the order for him to leave, obviously dissatisfied with Chen Fei's performance. Chapter 22. Thunderous Sword Force. I did discover something, but whether there is a problem or not, eldest miss will need to find someone to verify it. Chen Fei hesitated for a moment. Chen Fei did not care about the ratio of shares. After all, the majority of the shares would be from the black market. However, the light spirit pill that Zhang Xinan mentioned completely piqued Chen Fei's interest. The light spirit pill was a cultivation pill of a higher level than the chi rejuvenation pill. It was usually consumed by martial artists in the bone tempering realm or even the marrow tempering realm. Thus, the medicinal effects were much stronger than chi rejuvenation pill, and the price was naturally much higher. If Chen Fei could obtain the formula for the light spirit pill, he could replace the chi rejuvenation pill. He could either consume it himself or sell it on the black market. Speak. Zhang Sinan said calmly. The medicinal fragrance of the light spirit pill on Steward Sun's body is quite strong, Chen Fei said gravelly. The nose of an alchemist was sharper than other martial artists, especially when it came to medicinal ingredients. Chen Fei had seen and even eaten the light spirit pill before, so he was very familiar with it. As the manager of the medical hall, it was normal for Sun Shu to have the smell of pills on him. However, the smell of the light spirit pill overshadowed all the other pills. That was not normal. He was not an alchemist. Only by coming into contact with it every day, or even consuming it for many years, would the fragrance of the light spirit pill be so strong. The price of the light spirit pill was not low. One pill could cost 15 taels of silver, which was 1.5 times the price of the chi rejuvenation pill. Although Sun Shu was the manager of the medical hall, his salary was far from enough to support consuming one light spirit pill a day. Zhang Sinan's eyes lit up. If Chen Fei could deduce that much, Zhang Sinan naturally could as well. If it were really as Chen Fei said, then Sun Shu's problem would be huge. We can ask old Qin to confirm it. Zheng Difang said with a smile. The old Qin he was talking about was a physician, but he was extremely sensitive to the smell of medicinal pills. Whether the matter was as Chen Fei said, he would know once he got in proximity to them. If things are really as you said, then the pill formula for the light spirit pill is yours, Zhang Sinan looked at Chen Fei and said. Thank you, young miss. Chen Fei cupped his hands. As night fell, Chen Fei changed his figure and appearance. He wore a mask and a bamboo hat and appeared in the black market. When Qi Defeng saw Chen Fei, he led him into a room. He pointed at the herbs on the ground and said, after a few days of hard work, I've finally gathered all the ingredients. You don't know how hard it was. The price last time was really a little too low. Chen Fei didn't reply. He stepped forward to examine the medicinal ingredients. A moment later, Chen Fei stood up and calmly looked at Qi Defeng. What? Qi Defeng was a little scared by Chen Fei's stare and said unhappily, don't tell me you suddenly don't want these medicinal herbs anymore? Let me tell you, the price can still be discussed, and you have to take all the medicinal herbs. Did you make these imitation herbs yourself? Chen Fei asked calmly. What? There are also imitation herbs. How is that possible? Qi Defeng shouted loudly with an incredulous expression. He then walked towards the medicinal herbs and examined them carefully. Chen Fei wanted to roll his eyes. People who didn't know would probably be fooled by this act. If it weren't because Chen Fei was an alchemist himself, ordinary people really wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Without a certain level of foundation, it was impossible to make fake medicine of this level. There's actually really a fake one. Those damned refugees have deceived me. Qi Defeng cried out bitterly. He shouted a few times, but when he saw that Chen Fei didn't have any reaction, he couldn't help but retract his voice awkwardly. What do you have to say? Chen Fei looked at Qi Defeng and asked. I took a look. There aren't many fakes, just a little, Qi Defeng said with a smile. I want 10 portions. There are only 6 portions in there. You're right, it is a little. Chen Fei nodded. So many? I couldn't tell earlier. Those motherfuckers. Qi Defeng shouted loudly again. This is the silver for 6 sets of medicinal herbs. I still want 10 sets next time. I'll come to collect it in 3 days. Chen Fei took out the silver and handed it to Qi Defeng. He picked up the herbs and turned to leave the room. Qi Defeng shook the silver in his hand and looked at Chen Fei's back. He couldn't help but smile. It had been a long time since he had met such a smart young man. It was really interesting. Chen Fei carried his bag and left the black market. Chen Fei had calculated that 10 portions of medicinal herbs would not be that eye-catching. Carrying a big bag and leaving the black market would easily cause unnecessary trouble. The way things were now was perfect. After confirming that there was no one following him, Chen Fei carefully returned to his rented courtyard. This was another courtyard that Chen Fei had rented after changing his appearance. After all, he would be selling Qi rejuvenation pills in the black market in the future. It would be safer to be careful and not collide with his original identity. He had already specially tidied up a room and transformed it into a pill room. Chen Fei tidied up the medicinal herbs in his bag and began to refine the Qi rejuvenation pill. With his current mastery of the Qi rejuvenation pill, which was close to great completion, refining 6 sets of medicinal ingredients actually required very little time. As long as one mastered the technique, many things that seemed extremely complicated to laymen could sometimes be very simple. 2 hours later, the pill refinement was completed. Chen Fei looked at the 15 Qi rejuvenation pills in the bottle and couldn't help but smile. This was more than 100 taels of silver. If his Qi rejuvenation pills proficiency increased to great completion, the number of pills produced from each furnace would increase again. It would not take long for Chen Fei to accumulate 500 silver taels. Putting the medicine bottle in his pocket, Chen Fei looked at the interface. Cultivation techniques: clear mountain sword, great completion; wind suspending breathing technique, great completion; cloud crossing, great completion; disguise technique, great completion; immortal way, unlearned. Realm: body tempering, 17/10,000. Alchemy: vitality pill, great completion; detox pill, great completion; healing pill, great completion; Qi rejuvenation pill, perfection 7931/10,000. Status: gangrene. They were almost all at the stage of great completion. The sword technique immortal way was a little eye-catching even though it had not reached the beginner level. Because he had broken through to the body tempering realm, the state of the gangrene had also changed. There was an additional minus sign at the back, and the impact on Chen Fei had also decreased greatly. At the same time, the wind suspending breathing technique and the Qi rejuvenation pill had greatly reduced their effects on cultivation. However, the effect wasn't bad. It still increased by about 20 experience points per day. In other words, under such circumstances, it would probably take Chen Fei more than a year to break through to the bone tempering realm. It wasn't considered slow. It was already faster than most martial artists. Many martial artists would even remain stagnant for their entire lives. If Chen Fei wanted to speed up his cultivation progress, he would have to change it up and take the light spirit pills and strengthen the wind suspending breathing technique. With one of the two, Chen Fei's cultivation speed would be able to increase smoothly. With that thought, Chen Fei took out a secret manual. According to Qi Defeng, this was also the cultivation technique of the Celestial Cloud Sword sect, the Thunderous Sword Force. Chapter 23. Suspending Force. Chen Fei was dizzy from reading the secret manual. Many of the words seemed to make sense, but he didn't know how to start practicing it. 2 hours later, Chen Fei put down the secret manual. The only feeling he had was that the secret manual should have something to it. However, if he cultivated according to it, he would probably go berserk. Thunderous Sword Force is being simplified. Simplification was successful. Thunderous Sword Force rightward arrow astonishment formula. There's really something here. Chen Fei's eyes lit up slightly. As the contents of the astonishment formula appeared in Chen Fei's mind, he couldn't help but immerse himself in it. Another hour passed before Chen Fei emerged from his state. It really is a part of the Thunderous Sword Force. I got a bargain this time. Chen Fei couldn't help but grin. If he could successfully comprehend the complete thunderous sword force, not only would his cultivation speed be extremely fast, but his moves would also carry the power of lightning. The astonishment formula did not carry the power of lightning, but it inherited the advantage of cultivation speed. Of course, because it was only a part of the thunderous sword force, the astonishment formula was not without its flaws. If one did not cultivate carefully, it was easy to injure oneself. The astonishment formula was an accelerator. If your body could withstand it, the circulation of your blood and chi would become very fast. The original thunderous sword force contained the power of lightning, which could temper the body. Therefore, there was no need to worry about the problem of blood and chi circulating too quickly. Fuse. In Chen Fei's mind, the comprehension of the perfected wind-suspending breathing technique and the astonishment formula were fused together. A portion of the wind-suspending breathing technique was deleted, and the astonishment formula filled the gap. Cultivation method, suspending force, perfected, 1127/10000. A new cultivation technique appeared on the interface. The astonishment formula had contributed a lot to the new cultivation technique, but it was not to the extent of subverting it. Otherwise, the proficiency would not have appeared at its current position. Simplify suspending force. Suspending force is being simplified. Simplification was successful. Suspending force rightward arrow wind suspending breathing technique. Just as Chen Fei expected, the nesting doll appeared again. Chen Fei circulated the wind suspending breathing technique, and the experience points of the suspending force increased by 1. A smile appeared on Chen Fei's face. The problem with the cultivation technique had been slightly resolved. It was just that the silver tails that he had painstakingly accumulated had been used up again. Skin tempering, flesh tempering, bones tempering, marrow tempering, and viscera tempering. These were the 5 states of body tempering. In these 5 states, even the most mediocre extreme mountain breathing technique could allow a martial artist's cultivation to reach the visceral tempering state. Of course, this rarely happened because the extreme mountain breathing technique's efficiency was very slow. Even if he died of old age, he probably wouldn't be able to do it. He could only say that there was a chance, but the chance was slim. Thus, when a martial artist reached a certain realm, obtaining stronger cultivation techniques was definitely one of the goals. For example, the disciples of large aristocratic families or powerful sects started their cultivation right off with good techniques, so there was naturally no need to worry about getting other techniques. Only someone like Chen Fei, who had no foundation, would need to find an opportunity to exchange for a stronger cultivation technique. The amount of silver needed after fusing is a lot lower. I guess I already know a lot of them. A new simplified version, like Immortal Way, would cost 10 times more silver. Knowledge is indeed expensive. Chen Fei muttered to himself. Then, he sat cross-legged to cultivate. A night passed in the blink of an eye. The next day, Chen Fei refined pills in the medical hall as usual. At night, Chen Fei changed his appearance and appeared in the night market. This time, Chen Fei had a new identity, which was different from the original one. He was so strong that even though he was wearing a mask, the scar at the corner of his eye could be seen. "Do you accept medicinal pills?" Chen Fei came to a stall and said in a hoarse voice. That disguise technique was truly miraculous. After Chen Fei had cultivated it to perfection, he could change his appearance and voice at will. Even minor adjustments to his body were not a problem. Once he put on his mask and bamboo hat, he could take on 1,000 identities and not have to worry about being recognized. Depends on the appearance of the pill. If the quality is good, we will naturally accept it. The stall owner glanced at Chen Fei and saw the scar in the corner of Chen Fei's eye. "Here." Chen Fei threw out the medicine bottle. After the stall owner caught it, he opened the bottle, and a faint medicinal fragrance wafted out. The Qi rejuvenation pill Chen Fei made was close to the consummate level in terms of quality, there was already no flaw to be found. If one looked carefully, one would find that it was even better than the one sold in the medical centers and medicine shops on the market. Only alchemists who had accumulated experience over many years could refine it. As expected, the stall owner's eyes lit up when he saw the chi rejuvenation pills in the bottle. After stuffing the cork on the medicine bottle back in, the stall owner raised his head to look at Chen Fei. His voice had already become much gentler. The pills are not bad. If they are all of this quality, I will take as many as you have. You don't have to worry about its quality. You can check it every time. Give me a price. If I like it, I can sell all my pills to you. Chen Fei crossed his arms and said. How many can you produce? Between 10 to 20 pills over 3 days. Oh, if it's this amount, we'll take it for 7 taels per pill. The stall owner muttered to himself for a moment. Too low. Chen Fei shook his head. It's already quite a lot. We'll take it and still need to sell it. We have to make a profit. The stall owner insisted. Chen Fei didn't say anything and pretended to take away the medicine bottle from the stall as if he didn't want to continue the discussion. Sigh, don't worry. We can still negotiate the price. Stunned, the stall owner hurriedly stopped Chen Fei. After a while, Chen Fei left the black market having set the price at 8 taels. He wasn't very satisfied, but it was all right. After all, compared to Qingzhen Medical Hall, Chen Fei had already received a lot of money. Alchemy, cultivation, and grinding proficiency. Chen Fei's life seemed to have returned to peace. However, on the 5th day, Chen Fei saw Physician Qin in the clinic. Physician Qin walked around the clinic a few times before Sun Shu appeared. The two of them chatted for a while, appearing to have an enjoyable exchange. An hour later, Physician Qin left the Northern City Medical Hall. Chen Fei's expression didn't change. He knew that Zhang Xinan was about to make her move. It would probably be an eventful period in the next few days. Chen Fei thought for a moment and decided not to come to the clinic for the time being. It was a good time to grind the proficiency of the suspending force at home. At the same time, he could also take a good look around Pingying County. After coming to this world for so long, he had been caught up in trying to make a living and then constantly cultivating. Chen Fei did not know much about this city. His predecessor was a handyman, so he naturally didn't have much of a chance. The next morning, Chen Fei took sick leave and walked around Pingying County. Eating, drinking, and having fun. The silver that Chen Fei had on him now was a huge sum of money to ordinary people. With money, he could naturally have fun and dine however he wanted. Chen Fei had even entered the bar a few times to listen to music. That feeling was quite pleasant. Enjoying the wine in the restaurant and the street food, Chen Fei was like a bird that had escaped from its cage. His entire body and mind had obtained a trace of peace. There are a lot of things going on in Mount Pinyin. Picking herbs have been getting increasingly challenging. In the black market, Qi Defeng looked at Chen Fei and felt that Chen Fei's condition seemed to have changed a little. Even if it's not easy to obtain, you can't give me fake herbs. Chen Fei felt a little helpless. The first time, 40% of the herbs were fake. The second time, they were all normal herbs. Good heavens, the third time today, it was actually another batch containing 40% fake herbs. The only difference was that the forgery technique had improved a lot compared to the last time. Chapter 24. Ambush. However, as an alchemist, Chen Fei would come into contact with medicinal herbs every day. No matter how fake it was, Chen Fei would still be able to see through it. What? There's fake herbs again. Qi Defeng seemed to have just found out and shouted, "Little brother, it's fine. I know that those people are not honest, so I specially asked them to pick a portion more this time. This way, you'll get all 10 portions you asked for." As Qi Defeng spoke, he dragged out some medicinal herbs from another room and placed them in front of Chen Fei. Chen Fei looked at Qi Defeng. He had prepared for two scenarios. If Chen Fei didn't discover anything, he would just treat it as a profit. Even if they were discovered, there were still spare medicinal herbs. This Qi Defeng was really something else. Let me take a look. Chen Fei went forward to check the new medicinal herbs. After a moment, Chen Fei's face turned a little dark, having discovered that some fake medicinal herbs were mixed in. Chen Fei stood up and looked at Qi Defeng. More fake ones. This is too much, this is really too much. Qi Defeng was shaking like a rattle drum. He flipped his hand and took out a bag of medicinal herbs from his back. He handed it to Chen Fei and said, "Take a look again. Fortunately, I've prepared enough." 15 minutes later, Chen Fei left the black market with his bag. The merchants in this black market were all the same. They were all profit-oriented. Because he understood this, Chen Fei did not think of replacing Qi Defeng. At the very least, the quality of the medicinal herbs that Qi Defeng gave was not bad. Moreover, he was able to deliver the goods on time. Returning to the courtyard he rented, Chen Fei entered the pill room and spent more than 2 hours refining all the medicinal ingredients into the Qi rejuvenation pill. As his proficiency continued to approach great completion, the rate of Qi rejuvenation pills being produced became higher and higher. With 10 sets of medicinal ingredients, Chen Fei had managed to refine a total of 31 Qi rejuvenation pills. If I sell these, I can simplify Immortal Way. Chen Fei couldn't help but break into a smile. Chen Fei had been coveting the sword technique for a long time. Once he cultivates that, Chen Fei would have a killing move. Even if he faced enemies stronger than him, he might have a chance of fighting back or even killing them. The next morning, before Chen Fei left the house, Lu Jun came knocking on his door. Something bad has happened. Chen Fei noticed that Lu Jun appeared to be very flustered. What's wrong? Chen Fei handed over a cup of tea and said with a smile. Steward's son ran away and killed many people. As Lu Jun said this, he couldn't help but tremble. It was as though the blood on the floor of the medical hall seemed to flow in front of him again. Calm down. Tell me what happened. Chen Fei's expression turned serious. In the morning, someone from the main family came and said that he wanted Steward's son to go to the Zhang family to discuss something, and then Steward's son wanted to run. Lu Jun gulped down a few mouthfuls of tea and calmed down slightly. He told Chen Fei what happened in the morning in detail, allowing Chen Fei to understand what had happened. The Zhang family guard asked Sun Shu to go to the Zhang family. Sun Shu wanted to go back to his room to get something, but in the end, he wanted to run away through the secret passage in the room. Yes, Sun Shu directly dug a secret passage in his room as if he had long been prepared to be discovered. However, the Zhang guards who came this time were very cautious and immediately discovered that something was wrong. They rushed into the room and started fighting with Sun Shu. Sun Shu displayed extremely powerful strength. 2 of the 5 guards were killed, and Sun Shu managed to escape. The Zhang family was furious and reported the situation to the Yamen. They also offered a reward for Sun Shu. As long as they provided information about Sun Shu, they could get a considerable sum of silver. As the assistant manager of the clinic, Chen Fei naturally had to go to the clinic when he knew that something had happened. Physician Qin is dead. Not long after he arrived at the clinic, another piece of news came. Physician Qin, who had come to the North City Medical Hall a few days ago, had just been killed on the street. The murderer was wearing a bamboo hat, so Chen Fei couldn't see his face clearly. However, Chen Fei knew that the murderer was Sun Shu. How vengeful! Chen Fei muttered to himself. This Sun Shu probably guessed that his exposure was related to Physician Qin. After all, Physician Qin happened to come to the North City Medical Hall a few days ago. What Chen Fei didn't expect was that after Sun Shu escaped from the medical center, he didn't leave the county immediately. Instead, he attacked and killed Physician Qin. He didn't wait a night to exact his revenge. He's a ruthless person. Everyone in the clinic knew about this, so the Zhang family naturally got the news earlier. This time, the Zhang family was really furious. Sun Shu's actions were like a slap on the Zhang family's face. Unsurprisingly, the bounty doubled in an instant, to the point that even Chen Fei was tempted by it. However, thinking about Sun Shu's current strength, Chen Fei still gave up on this thought. There were 5 guards in the morning, 1 in the bone-tempering realm and 4 in the body-tempering realm. Sun Shu was able to kill 2 of them and leave calmly. Chen Fei's current cultivation is no match for Sun Shu. For the entire day, the North City Medical Hall was in a mess. Everyone was scatterbrained. As night fell, Chen Fei left the clinic and walked towards his residence. After passing through a few alleys and just as he was about to step into his own courtyard, Chen Fei suddenly stopped. He looked around with a hesitant expression and slowly took a few steps back. "You're quite sharp. To think I hadn't noticed that before." A voice rang out. At some point in time, a black figure appeared on the courtyard wall. At this moment, he was looking down at Chen Fei from above. His gaze was so cold that it made one's body tremble. "Steward Sun." Chen Fei's pupils constricted slightly. Although the person had covered his face, Chen Fei could roughly recognize him just by looking at his figure, especially since the person did not hide his voice at all. "I'm not a steward now. I'm just a hooligan." Sun Shu laughed in a low voice. His voice was a little ear-piercing, as if there were countless thin needles that wanted to pierce into your neck. "Steward Sun must be joking." Chen Fei quietly took a few steps back and stared at Sun Shu. "May I know why Steward Sun is here? I thought about it today. How did the Zhang family find out about me? One possibility is that Qin Gai and the other is you." Sun Shu looked at Chen Fei coldly and said, "So, before I leave Pingying County, I have to come and see you. Otherwise, I won't be able to scratch that itch." "Steward Sun, you've misunderstood. What I think is right is right. As for what you think, what does it have to do with me? What does it have to do with you if I want to kill you?" Sun Shu laughed loudly. "Steward Sun is right. Goodbye, Steward Sun." As soon as Chen Fei finished speaking, his figure flickered, and he disappeared from where he was. "You want to run? Did you ask me for permission to do so?" Sun Shu snorted coldly. His figure moved and directly followed Chen Fei's footsteps. After a short while, Sun Shu's arrogant smile slowly disappeared. Sun Shu originally thought that he could catch Chen Fei in a few steps. However, the distance between the two sides was getting further and further. In just a moment, the two sides were already dozens of meters apart. As time passed, the distance between them continued to widen. Sun Shu's eyes were filled with shock. Didn't Chen Fei just break through to the skin toughening realm not long ago? Was this the speed of a movement technique that could be achieved by someone in the skin toughening realm? Chapter 25. Acting. Sun Shu had a dark expression on his face. He thought for a moment and decided to let Chen Fei go first. Otherwise, it would be too ostentatious to make such a long journey. Now that the Zhang family had put a bounty on his head, he might get caught. However, just as Sun Shu was about to give up, he suddenly realized that Chen Fei, who was running in front of him, had slowed down. Although he was still faster than ordinary skin toughening realm or even body tempering realm martial artists, it was already within Sun Shu's range. Was that a secret technique? Sun Shu felt something shift inside, feeling that this speed was more reasonable. Otherwise, even a bone-tempering realm martial artist like him would not be able to match the speed of the movement technique just now. It would be completely unreasonable for it to appear on a skin-toughening realm martial artist. "Brat, let's see where you can run to." Sun Shu sneered and followed closely behind. In just a moment, the distance between the two sides was reduced by half. At this moment, it was only 20 meters. If they both maintained the same speed, Sun Shu would be able to catch Chen Fei in just a few more steps. As if sensing the pressure behind him, Chen Fei took the opportunity to turn around and look at Sun Shu. He realized that the distance between the two sides was constantly closing, and his face turned pale with fear. When Sun Shu saw Chen Fei's expression, he couldn't help but reveal a sinister smile. He liked it when others showed such an expression, just like those low-level laborers whose life and death were completely in his control. It seemed that the pressure of death forced Chen Fei to increase his speed when Sun Shu was only a dozen meters away. He slowly pulled away from Sun Shu again. "It's useless." Sun Shu sneered and waved his right hand. A cold light flashed. Chen Fei's figure in front of him swayed and dodged Sun Shu's hidden weapon. However, the speed of his movement technique was affected, and the distance between him and Sun Shu was reduced to only slightly more than 10 meters. Chen Fei ran with all his might. One could even see that his neck was red due to the intense strength he exerted. It was as if Chen Fei would be exhausted and fall to the side the next moment. However, Chen Fei persisted. The two of them pulled back and forth between a distance of more than 10 meters and a distance of more than 20 meters. At the closest point, they were already within 10 meters. However, in the end, Chen Fei desperately pulled them apart, causing Sun Shu to be unable to catch up to Chen Fei. Sun Shu gritted his teeth, the anger in his heart rising. Originally, he thought that killing Chen Fei would not be much harder than killing a couple of chickens. However, the movement technique that Chen Fei displayed shocked Sun Shu. When Sun Shu realized it was a secret technique after, he managed to close the gap. However, this distance was like a chasm that could not be crossed. How could Sun Shu not be furious? It even caused him to lose his rationality. No, this place is too close to the Zhang clan. Sun Shu was chasing Chen Fei like a crazed man. The feeling of being so close to capturing Chen Fei made Sun Shu a little dizzy. However, when he saw his surroundings, Sun Shu was snapped back to his senses. After running for another few hundred meters, they would arrive at the Zhang family's residence. At this moment, Sun Shu seemed to be in high spirits, killing people whenever he wanted to. However, if he really went to the Zhang family, he would be the one to die in the end. Even if he wanted to die, the Zhang family might see to it that it was long and drawn out. It was inevitable that he would be tortured. Sun Shu stopped in his tracks and looked at Chen Fei with a vicious gaze. He planned to retreat first. This position was too dangerous. Even if Sun Shu wanted to kill Chen Fei, he would not gamble his life. Chen Fei, who was running forward, noticed that there was no movement behind him. He couldn't help but look back and saw Sun Shu stop and look over with a cold gaze. Chen Fei's figure flipped and stepped on the roof of a building. He placed his hands on his knees and bent over as he panted heavily. It was as if Chen Fei would faint from exhaustion in the next moment. Consider yourself lucky. The next time we meet, it will be your death date. Sun Shu looked at Chen Fei as if he could strangle him to death with a casual hand. He could not help but want to go forward. However, Sun Shu hesitated for a moment before turning around and disappearing into the alley. Chen Fei watched as Sun Shu left. His originally panting appearance suddenly stopped, and he slowly straightened up. Damn! So close. This Sun Shu is too cautious. His breathing was calm, and his skin, which had turned red from the intense exertion, had returned to normal. Yes, these were all Chen Fei's pretense in order to lure Sun Shu to the Zhang family estate. He had been acting the entire time, maintaining a distance from Sun Shu in order to bait Sun Shu. In order to make the act look real, Chen Fei even used the disguise technique to make it look extra real and deceive Sun Shu. But in the end, it was still a little lacking. If they had advanced another 100 meters, Chen Fei would have shouted loudly, and the Zhang family's guards would have rushed out. At that time, Sun Shu would have no way of escaping. As it was a pity Sun Shu stopped when he did. In the end, it was still Chen Fei's own strength that was a little lacking. Otherwise, he could have captured Sun Shu and exchanged him for that high bounty. If I go to the Zhang family to report it, I can probably exchange it for some reward silver. Chen Fei thought for a moment before he turned around and continued to run toward the Zhang family estate. 15 minutes later, several guards of the Zhang family rushed out toward the place where Sun Shu had disappeared. Chen Fei held a money bag in his hand as he leisurely walked out of the Zhang family estate. The Zhang family was a respectable family. Chen Fei was able to exchange 20 taels of silver for a piece of information about Sun Shu. Chen Fei originally wanted to look for Zhang Xinan to ask about the pill formula of the light spirit pill, but it was already late. If he went to look for Zhang Xinan at this time, he would probably be beaten and thrown out. Chen Fei walked around a few alleys. When he came out again, he had completely changed his appearance. There was a scar at the corner of his eye that extended all the way to the corner of his mouth. He looked ferocious and sinister. In the time he took to put on his mask and bamboo hat, Chen Fei had already appeared in the black market. This is the medicinal pill for this time. Arriving at the stall, Chen Fei handed over the medicine bottle. The color is getting better and better. The stall owner glanced at the pill in the bottle and could not help but smile. Although Chen Fei only came once every few days, he was stable enough. Moreover, the quality of the pills was good, and they sold very well. This is your money. The stall owner counted the silver and handed it to Chen Fei. He smiled and said, "Our main family is very satisfied with your medicinal pills and wants to further trades with you." "Sure. I'm open to that." Chen Fei nodded and did not refuse. "Sir, can you refine other pills? Although the Qi rejuvenation pill is not bad, it is still a little cheap. If there are even higher grade pills, we can still discuss the price." Light spirit pill. Yes, the light spirit pill is very good. It might even be the eternal floating pill. The stall owner stared at Chen Fei and said, "If you can provide us with these two pills, I can compromise more on the price. You can even come to us if you run into any trouble." Chen Fei's brows twitched slightly. Chen Fei rarely saw the eternal floating pill in the county, but there were still quite a few light spirit pills. Why was the other party so eager for these two pills? "I don't have a pill formula. If you can provide me with the pill formula, I can give it a try." "You must be joking. It's still possible to get the pill formula for the light spirit pill. Although it is not cheap, the price is negotiable. However, no one in Pingying County would sell the eternal floating pill formula." The stall owner laughed and shook his head. Chapter 26. More than bargained. "Then I can't help you. I'll sell it to you when I know how to refine it." Chen Fei waved his hand and turned to leave. After learning the light spirit pill, Chen Fei would really take it out to sell. After all, it was more valuable. As for the eternal floating pill, even if he did manage to refine it, he wouldn't sell it. A man is innocent, but he is guilty of holding a treasure. Chen Fei still did not have enough strength to protect himself. If he sold it and word got out, it would be very easy for him to be captured and become an alchemist who could only refine medicine. After leaving the black market, Chen Fei shook off the few small tails behind him. As Chen Fei sold Qi rejuvenation pills in the black market, more and more people followed him. Fortunately, Chen Fei's movement technique was now pretty accomplished. Ordinary people simply could not keep up with Chen Fei's pace. Besides, a mere Qi rejuvenation pill wouldn't draw out any powerful experts. After making a few more turns in the county, Chen Fei returned to the courtyard of the pill room. Chen Fei opened his money pouch and looked at the shiny silver inside. He couldn't help but smile. Nearly 600 taels of silver was a huge sum in the eyes of ordinary people. However, Chen Fei saved up this sum of money in a few days. Alchemy was naturally the greatest contribution, but Chen Fei's own cultivation and movement technique could not be ignored either. Without power, one would not be able to hold on to the money. Chen Fei's goal of making money had always been to continuously grow his own strength. Otherwise, he would be a miser and never know when the money would disappear. Interface, simplify Immortal Way. Immortal Way is being simplified. Simplification was successful. Immortal Way rightward arrow finger drumming. The simplified version did not disappoint Chen Fei. Chen Fei tapped the table lightly with his finger. In the next moment, the comprehension of Immortal Way appeared in Chen Fei's mind, and he naturally closed his eyes. This was the most profound and exquisite sword technique that Chen Fei had ever come into contact with. Now that he was being shown the way, it caused Chen Fei to involuntarily immerse himself in it. As his fingers tapped unconsciously, the experience points of Immortal Way on the interface kept increasing. Chen Fei's face revealed a smile. This was the joy of cultivating. Early the next morning, Chen Fei headed to the Zhang family estate in high spirits. Cultivation method, Immortal Way, Master 201/1000. In just one night, Immortal Way had already reached the master level. This level of sword technique could already be used in actual combat. Last night, if it weren't for the profoundness of the sword technique that held Chen Fei's undivided attention, causing him to forget about drumming his fingers, his proficiency would have been even higher now. However, Chen Fei was already very satisfied in his heart. In a few days, Immortal Way would probably reach great completion. At that time, no one in the body tempering realm in Pingyang County would be Chen Fei's match. This was the sword technique of the Immortal Cloud Sword sect. Although it was only one of the moves, its profoundness far surpassed that of the warriors of Pingyang County. I reckon if I took the initiative to strike a bone-tempering realm martial artist with such a sword attack, they wouldn't be a match for me either. Chen Fei did a quick estimate, comparing what he'd seen from Jian Liang, whom he had met back then, and Sun Shu, whom he had crossed paths with last night. They would indeed be heavily injured if they were careless. If he used Immortal Way a few more times, they might be killed. It was easy for people to see through the flaws of the move when it was used many times. However, the other party was already heavily injured, so how would they have the time to see the flaws? Chen Fei felt a little more secure, but this sense of security was far from enough. Chen Fei felt that he still needed to continue working hard. Eldest Miss. He entered through the small door and walked to the courtyard. Seeing that Zhang Xinan seemed to be thinking about something in the pavilion, Chen Fei called out from the side. You're here. Sit. When Zhang Xinan saw Chen Fei, she seemed to know Chen Fei's purpose for being there. Zhang Xinan's brows furrowed slightly and said, Is it for the pill formula of the light spirit pill? Yes, please bestow it upon me, eldest miss. Chen Fei cupped his hands. I'm afraid I can't give you the recipe for the light spirit pill. Zhang Xinan hesitated for a moment. Why? Didn't we have an agreement before? Chen Fei could not help but frown. This was different from what she had said before. It was because of the light spirit pill formula that Chen Fei was chased by Sun Shu last night. Zhang Xinan should know about this. There are a few elders who feel that Sun Shu's matter has not been resolved. Isn't it too much to give you the pill formula when all you gave us was one sentence? Zhang Xinan seemed to know that she was in the wrong, so she explained to Chen Fei nicely. Chen Fei frowned and did not speak. The Zhang family was venting their anger on him for what happened to Sun Shu. Originally, he thought that the Zhang family was a decent house, but Chen Fei had overestimated them. The Zhang family won't mistreat people. Even if I give you the pill formula for the light spirit pill, you won't be able to concoct it. Why don't you exchange it for some other rewards? Chen Fei's silence made Zhang Xinan somewhat dissatisfied, and her voice also became cold. I wonder what the reward is. Chen Fei didn't make a scene, nor did he argue because he knew that it was useless. Techniques, weapons, you name it. As long as it's suitable, I can reward you. Seeing that Chen Fei did not pester her, Zhang Xinan nodded slightly. This was more like it. In the end, Although Chen Fei was not a servant of the Zhang family, he still relied on the Zhang family for a living. He still had to put himself in a proper position. I want a sword technique. There were no options for cultivation techniques, only moves and sharp weapons. The Zhang family was really tight in this aspect. However, it was normal. After all, they were not even willing to give the pill formula. Zhang Xinan nodded and called a servant over to give a few instructions. In just a moment, 4 sword technique manuals were placed in front of Chen Fei. These secret manuals are not bad. Choose one. Can I through each one? Chen Fei thought for a moment and said. Sure. Zhang Xinan nodded in agreement. Chen Fei picked up the first book, Zephyr Sword, and flipped through it. Who knew if it was because Chen Fei had comprehended Immortal Way? But right at that moment, as Chen Fei looked at the Zephyr Sword, he understood the sword technique immediately. In just a quarter of an hour, Chen Fei had finished reading the Zephyr Sword. Chen Fei subconsciously looked at the interface, and his eyes could not help but light up. Cultivation technique, Zephyr Sword, unlearned. I can take all 3 books for nothing. Chen Fei couldn't help but think of this sentence. Chen Fei raised his head and glanced at Zhang Xinan and realized that her attention was not on him at all. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly. Putting down the secret manual in his hand, Chen Fei flipped through the second sword technique. 15 minutes later, Chen Fei put down the secret manual and picked up the third one. After another 15 minutes, Chen Fei finished reading the 4th secret manual. Are you done? Which one do you want? Seeing Chen Fei put down the secret manual, Zhang Xinan turned around and asked. Zhang Xinan never thought that Chen Fei could learn 4 secret manuals in such a short period of time. More than 90% of martial artists could not do this. Cultivation techniques had to be studied carefully. It was even impossible to learn them by self-study. One had to be guided by a master. 15 minutes for a secret manual was only enough for him to roughly browse through the secret manual. This one, then. Chen Fei picked up one of the books, and Zhang Xinan nodded. Chen Fei cupped his hands and left the Zhang clan estate. On the way, Chen Fei looked at the information on the interface and almost laughed out loud. Cultivation techniques, Zephyr Sword, unlearned, Fire Sword, unlearned, Leaf Pattern Sword, unlearned, Hand Shield Sword, unlearned. Although he did not obtain the pill formula for the Light Spirit pill, he did not lose out. In fact, it seemed that he had even gotten more than he had bargained for. Chapter 27. Multi-version Cultivation Method. Each of the 4 sets of sword techniques was not inferior to Chen Fei's Clear Mountain Sword, and they were even slightly superior. The Clear Mountain Sword and the Zephyr Sword disappeared, and in their place, Fierce Mountain Sword appeared. Simplify. Fierce Mountain Sword is being simplified. Simplification was successful. Fierce Mountain Sword rightward arrow Clear Mountain Sword. Just as Chen Fei had expected, after practicing the simplified version of the Clear Mountain Sword, he could increase his proficiency. Next, it was time to gain more experience. As for the pill formula of the Light Spirit pill, Chen Fei thought about it for a while and decided to go to the stall in the black market to ask about it. During the day, Chen Fei went to Northern City Medical Center as usual. Now that Sun Shu was in trouble, Chen Fei had become the person with the most power in Northern City Medical Center. If it were someone else with a stronger desire for power, they would probably gather the hearts of the people and expand their influence. However, Chen Fei was not interested in this at all. This was because Chen Fei knew that whether he had a group or not, as long as the Zhang family gave the word, everything could be reversed. After all, the clinic belonged to the Zhang family. The Zhang family had the final say in what happened here. Lu Jun went forward to greet Chen Fei attentively. Chen Fei thought for a moment and changed Lu Jun's position. It could be considered a small promotion, with less work and more money. Chen Fei still had this bit of authority. Thank you, Steward Chen. Lu Jun was so excited that his face flushed red. He bowed to Chen Fei, and the surrounding people also looked at him with envy. In their view, Lu Jun, as the first person to follow Chen Fei, would probably soar in the future. Chen Fei patted Lu Jun's shoulder to show his encouragement. Then, he returned to the pill room to continue refining vitality. The proficiency of the Qi rejuvenation pill was already close to perfection. Chen Fei planned to raise it today. In his spare time after that, he could use it to cultivate other cultivation techniques. He went all out to refine. In the evening, Chen Fei finally revealed a smile on his face. Alchemy technique, Qi rejuvenation pill, great completion. He would sell all the vitality pill she had refined. After the recent period of time of settling down, Chen Fei had already deliberately displayed a perfected vitality pill. One was to display his talent, and the other was that the current vitality pill was no longer useful to Chen Fei. As for selling them in the black market, the value of vitality pills was not very high. Chen Fei casually sold a Qi rejuvenation pill, which could be worth a lot of vitality pills. As night fell, Chen Fei went to the black market after disguising himself. This time, Chen Fei asked around seriously because he already knew a lot about the black market, and he found out a lot of things. Previously, he had always thought that the black market only sold basic pill formulas. This time, he discovered that high-level pill formulas were actually sold, but they were rare. Moreover, he couldn't just buy them with money, but he also had to exchange other things. One thing was certain, all the conditions to obtain the formulas were rough. The easiest one required 2,000 taels of silver and 100 light spirit pills at half price. These people clearly didn't want to sell. No matter how he looked at it, that price didn't seem right. It was a little like fishing. Chen Fei originally wanted to change into his usual appearance of selling medicine and go to the medicine stall to ask. Now, it seemed that there was nothing to ask. Each and every one of them held onto the pill formula as if they were holding onto their life. With my current pill refining skills, I wonder if I can reverse engineer the pill formula of the light spirit pill. Chen Fei stood in the black market, frowning. Chen Fei had eaten the light spirit pill before. Some of the medicinal ingredients were actually the same as the Qi rejuvenation pill. There was just a change in parts, and at the same time, there were some differences in the alchemy methods. Chen Fei was now at the great completion of the Qi rejuvenation pill. Right then, he tried to formulate what the light spirit pill formula could entail, and a lot of inspiration appeared in his mind. Just relying on this inspiration to refine the light spirit pill was a little too naive, though. Let's go to the book stall and take a look. Chen Fei walked into a dark corner. When he emerged the next time, his face and figure had already changed slightly. He walked through a side street and arrived at Qi Defeng's stall. Why are you free today? The medicinal ingredients aren't here yet. Qi Defeng leaned against the bench and looked at Chen Fei, somewhat surprised. The two of them had worked together for so long and were considered acquaintances, so their conversation had become much more casual. Do you have the pill formula for the light spirit pill? Chen Fei said. Yes, let me look for it. Qi Defeng rummaged around the stall and finally flipped through the pages of a book in the corner. It was thought that no one would buy the pill formula here. The pill formula looked quite old. There's also a pill formula for the eternal floating pill. Do you want it? Qi Defeng took out another pill recipe from somewhere and handed it to Chen Fei. The thunderous sword force from last time was not bad, but there were too many mistakes. Is there a more complete one? Chen Fei glanced at the pill formula but did not look at it carefully. Instead, he asked about the secret manual from last time. You actually got something from it? Qi Defeng looked at Chen Fei in surprise. This person couldn't have really cultivated it, right? He knew his own business. The secret manuals on his stall were all wholesale from other places. It was a bit of an exaggeration to say that the contents were nonsense. Most people only bought basic secret manuals and high-level cultivation techniques here. They all looked at them for fun and took them as a way to relieve their boredom. Chi Defeng himself usually did that, occasionally looking at these secret manuals. Did he really use them for cultivating? Did he have a death wish? I just feel that some of the words in it make sense, Chen Fei said with a smile. Okay. Hang on a bit. As Chi Defeng spoke, he rummaged through the stall and took out a cultivation technique book for Chen Fei. Chen Fei lowered his head to take a look at the thunderous sword force annotation. The corners of Chen Fei's mouth could not help but open. Who was so bored to actually come up with an annotation version? There are other versions. Chen Fei asked curiously. Yes, there is. The thunderous sword force is the top entry-level technique of the celestial cloud sword sect. Do you still want the other versions? Chi Defeng looked at Chen Fei strangely. This guy couldn't have really cultivated, right? Moreover, was he already delirious and planning to piece together the complete thunderous sword force by himself? How many versions do you have? Give me all of them. Chen Fei nodded. Although it was impossible to simplify the specific content of every secret manual, if there were more, there might be unexpected gains. Chi Defeng did not refuse. He searched around the bookstall and even returned to the house to search. Then, he carried a dozen secret manuals and placed them in front of Chen Fei. That's basically all. If you want them, I'll sell them to you at a low price. Not earning money was not Chi Defeng's character. If Chen Fei wanted them, Chi Defeng would naturally sell them all. All right, thanks. Chen Fei stuffed the secret manual into his bag and bargained for a while before putting down a few taels of silver. It's fine to look, but don't actually cultivate with them. Looking at Chen Fei, Chi Defeng couldn't help but say. Chen Fei smiled and waved his hand, then turned around and left the black market. A moment later, Chen Fei appeared in his courtyard and looked at the rewards in his bag. There were many things to do. Chen Fei realized that he did not have enough time. The sword technique had to be combined and cultivated, and the suspending force had to be perfected. Then, he had to integrate so many types of thunderous sword forces. Also, he couldn't neglect the reverse engineering of the light spirit pill. Chapter 28. Forced. It's a bit difficult to restore the light spirit pill, so I think it's better if I focus on cultivation techniques and treat restoring the pill formula as a supplement for the future, Chen Fei considered for a moment before making this decision. He understood that the pill formula was important, but it was also the most challenging aspect of his training. In terms of increasing his strength, he and the other two were in the same position, so it was clear what to prioritize. Time passed by leisurely. Chen Fei was refining pills in the medical hall during the day, but he did not refine them many times. After a few batches of vitality pills, Chen Fei would stop. His next step was to improve his proficiency in Immortal Way, as it was the most obvious way to increase his strength. As long as Immortal Way reached great completion, Chen Fei's killer move would be considered successful. Fortunately, tapping his fingers was indeed simple. It was a test of hand speed. In just 2 days, Chen Fei had cultivated Immortal Way to great completion. Cultivation technique, Immortal Way, great completion. In the courtyard, a flash of sword chi appeared, and a hole appeared in the fake mountain. Chen Fei slowly put away his sword and stepped forward to look at the hole in the rockery. He could not help but smile. Steward Chen, are you there? Lu Jun's voice rang out from outside the door. Chen Fei opened the door in puzzlement and saw Lu Jun panting outside. Is something wrong at the clinic? Chen Fei had deliberately skipped the clinic to test out his sword style with Immortal Way. The new steward has taken over and wants everyone to go there now, Lu Jun replied, glancing at Chen Fei as he said in a whisper. Most people believed that Chen Fei would be the next steward of the North City Medical Center due to his relationship with Zhang Xinan, the eldest daughter of the Zhang family. However, a new steward arrived, and Chen Fei did not get the promotion. Lu Jun expected Chen Fei to be furious, but he was surprised to see him remain calm despite the news. Of course, he was calm. If the Zhang family could renege on the pill formula of the light spirit pill, how could the position of the steward of the Northern City Medical Hall fall to Chen Fei? Chen Fei did not fancy the position of steward. The money would not be much, yet there would definitely be a lot of things to do. As things were now was more in line with Chen Fei's wishes. "Let's go and meet the new steward," Chen Fei said, smiling slightly as he walked forward. Lu Jun followed behind him, careful not to miss anything he said. The new steward was Zhang Yuejin, a member of the Zhang family who had previously worked in other counties. But her previous county had been conquered, and her family had come to Pingying County to seek refuge with the main family. "I heard that Steward Zhang has a good relationship with the eldest miss," Lu Jun whispered. Chen Fei nodded slightly. Their relationship was probably not ordinary. Otherwise, she would not be in charge of the North City Medical Center. However, he had just arrived in Pingying County and had to take care of something urgent. The North City Medical Center will probably be busy from now on. Before I came, I looked at the medical center's account book. The income is far inferior to Qingzhen Medical Center. I won't pursue this matter as it is the past, but in the future, I hope that we can catch up with, or even surpass, Qingzhen Medical Center. As soon as he stepped into the clinic, Chen Fei heard a voice. He looked up and saw Zhang Yuejin looking at everyone present with a fierce gaze. Her aura suppressed everyone present. "All right, return to your posts. If there's a need, I'll talk to you alone." Zhang Yuejin waved her hand, and the crowd quickly dispersed as if they had been granted a pardon. "Greetings, Steward Zhang." Chen Fei stepped forward and bowed. "You are Chen Fei." Zhang Yuejin looked him up and down and said, "Sinan told me about you. Your talent in alchemy isn't bad." "Young miss, you flatter me," Chen Fei replied. "I was entrusted by Sinan to come to North City Medical Center to rebuild it, so I need the help of many people. It's our duty to contribute to the medical center." Chen Fei said with a smile. "Since it's your duty, are you producing pills at your maximum capacity?" Zhang Yuejin's tone suddenly became stern as she stared at Chen Fei and said, "I've seen your alchemy records for the past few days. How many vitality pills do you take a day? Is this how you contribute to the medical hall? I was frightened a few days ago, and my condition hasn't been good recently." Chen Fei explained. "I don't need to hear that. I'm just asking you if you can concoct 30 batches of vitality pills and 30 batches of healing pills every day." Zhang Yuejin waved her hand and interrupted Chen Fei. "I'm afraid not." Chen Fei shook his head slightly. "The steward asked you to refine pills, so you should just do it? Where are all your excuses coming from? It's clear that you don't want to contribute." Dan Xiang scolded Chen Fei. She was Zhang Xinan's servant girl and had followed him to express Zhang Xinan's attitude. Although Chen Fei was the assistant steward of the clinic, Dan Xiang was not afraid to speak her mind. "It's not easy to explain alchemy," Chen Fei replied helplessly. Zhang Yuejin's eyes narrowed slightly. She was already becoming impatient. "Then tell me, how many furnaces of medicinal pills can you refine every day?" "Starting tomorrow, I'll try to refine 5 batches of vitality pills," Chen Fei said. "Just one more batch than now." Zhang Yuejin's aura pressed down on Chen Fei. Despite her young age, she had already reached the bone-tempering realm thanks to her family's power. "I will try to recover as soon as possible and refine more pills," Chen Fei said with a smile. Zhang Yuejin didn't say anything. Her eyes were fixed on Chen Fei, and Chen Fei returned her gaze. "Very well, remember what you said today," she snorted coldly and turned to leave. Dan Xiang also glared at Chen Fei before following Zhang Yuejin. "Steward Chen," Lu Jun approached Chen Fei with concern. Isn't it a little inappropriate for the new steward to have a conflict with you on her first day? Chen Fei patted Lu Jun's shoulder and walked towards his pill room. Zhang Yuejin was a new official, and her first target was Chen Fei. If Chen Fei had agreed to her demands, not only would his time be completely compressed, but he wouldn't have had the energy to do his own work. In the future, Zhang Yuejin would only assign more tasks to Chen Fei. Although Chen Fei was the assistant steward, his foundation was quite shallow. Others believed that he had Zhang Xinan backing him, but in reality, Zhang Xinan had never treated him as her own. On the other hand, Zhang Yuejin was Zhang Xinan's actual relative. As long as she could control Chen Fei, others in the clinic would see that even Chen Fei was obedient to her demands. This would motivate them to put in more effort. Chen Fei had now become a tool in Zhang Yuejin's hands, a tool to reorganize the North City Medical Center. That Chen Fei is so uncooperative. When I return, I will definitely report this to eldest miss. Dan Xiang said unhappily. Why bother Xinan with this kind of thing? Zhang Yuejin sneered. If Chen Fei had directly refused, I would still respect him as a man. This kind of shirking is worse than a woman. Instead, I look down on him. Dan Xiang couldn't help but laugh. How could Chen Fei dare to refuse Zhang Yuejin? He would probably be slapped down by her. After all, he was only in the skin toughening realm. Chapter 29. Traces. 10 days had passed in the blink of an eye. During the day, Chen Fei tried his best to avoid encountering Zhang Yuejin. After refining 5 batches of vitality pills, Chen Fei would focus on cultivating the suspending force. The suspending force was almost perfect, and Chen Fei had been seriously grinding his proficiency. Now, he had finally achieved perfection. In the pill room, Chen Fei slowly opened his eyes and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Compared to the original wind suspending breathing technique, the suspending force alone now gives me 17 points of cultivation progress every day. It's almost doubled, Chen Fei muttered to himself. This was when it was fused with suspending force. What if it was the complete thunderous sword force? Chen Fei swallowed his saliva, wondering if those fake thunderous sword force books could give him a surprise. However, Chen Fei didn't have time to obtain those secret manuals. After all, he still had sword techniques that he hadn't completed. Suddenly, a noisy voice came from outside the medical hall, mixed with the voices of more people. Chen Fei walked out of the pill room with a strange expression. When he arrived outside the clinic, he saw refugees passing by the door. Chen Fei's brows twitched slightly. How were these refugees able to enter the city? Previously, the Pingying County government had forbidden refugees from entering the city due to concerns that it would affect the county's stability. Only refugees who were hired could pass through the city gates. There were many handymen in the medical center who were found from among the refugees. The salary they were given was even lower than what Chen Fei originally earned. Even so, these refugees were fighting over the positions because they could only eat their fill after entering the city. Otherwise, they could die at any time outside the city. Chen Fei glanced at Lu Jun, and Lu Jun quickly went out to gather information. After a short while, Lu Jun returned. An evil visited the city outside 2 nights ago. Dozens of refugees died in one night, and there was no way out. The county government opened the city gates and settled these refugees in the North City, Lu Jun said. Lu Jun shrank back when he spoke of the evil. If ordinary people encountered such a thing, they would die. Lu Jun was an ordinary person without any cultivation. How could he not be afraid when he heard such news? The county government allowed the refugees to enter the city because they feared that if too many people died, it would cause a mutiny among them. They were also concerned that the evil creature would continue to kill people until it became uncontrollable. Humans could cultivate to become stronger, but the evil creature could grow by devouring people in a peculiar way. Normally, the city had magical objects that the county government used to protect the North City Medical Center from the creature, so it would avoid the area. Although the effect outside the city walls was weaker, it was still considered safe. However, it was evident that the North City Medical Center creature had breached this boundary, and the county government couldn't let the matter just rest. Chen Fei spent the entire day cultivating his inner strength and sword techniques, feeling a sense of urgency due to the appearance of the evil creature at the North City Medical Center. Although the creature had not yet broken through into the city, Chen Fei could not predict what would happen. At night, Pingying County was noisier than usual, and Chen Fei could hear sounds coming from afar. The next morning, he arrived at the clinic and learned that 19 people had died in the city the night before. Among the victims were refugees, city residents, and a family of 7 who were killed but spared when they offered silver taels. Chen Fei frowned, as those refugees shouldn't have that sort of power, considering that wealthy families would usually hire guards to prevent their entry. He wondered if the mountain bandits were pretending to be refugees and had returned to the county. At night, Chen Fei visited the dark market, where Qi Defeng complained about the difficulty of picking herbs due to the refugees' fear of going to Pingying Mountain. It's really difficult to pick herbs recently. Qi Defeng couldn't help but complain when he saw Chen Fei. I'll pay 50% above market price, Chen Fei said calmly. I like doing business with you. Quick and decisive. Qi Defeng's expression changed as a smile instantly appeared on his face. Chen Fei didn't say anything. He lowered his head to check the herbs. After a moment, Chen Fei stood up and pointed at a few medicinal herbs as he looked at Qi Defeng. Qi Defeng automatically took away those medicinal herbs and replaced them with new ones. Chen Fei felt somewhat helpless. He didn't know if Qi Defeng had some beef with him recently. Every time he went to the herb store, he would try to mix some fakes in. Not many, just a few. It seemed like he wanted to catch Chen Fei missing them at least once. As Chen Fei left the market, he saw a person who appeared to be a mountain bandit. Chen Fei pretended to browse a stall while focusing his attention on the bandit. In the dark market, most people disguised their appearance, and the mountain bandit was no exception. However, this disguise technique was probably cast on this mountain bandit by someone else. Chen Fei's disguise technique had long been perfected, so it was very easy to see through the flaws. Most importantly, Chen Fei had a deep impression of this mountain bandit because he was the one who broke Pu Liao's leg with a kick after capturing him. At that time, Chen Fei had subconsciously taken a few more glances at the mountain bandit and thus remembered him. It's really them. They were most likely the ones behind what happened last night. Chen Fei wandered around the dark market for more than an hour before the mountain bandit left. Chen Fei followed far behind. Chen Fei's current movement technique was much more outstanding than an ordinary bone-tempering realm cultivator. This bandit was of the same rank as Chen Fei. Although he was very cautious, Chen Fei still managed to follow him back to where he lived. It was not just the residence. The person had removed his hood and bamboo hat halfway through, and Chen Fei also saw his current appearance. Looks like this is the appearance he used in the city recently. Chen Fei identified this person from afar and then disappeared. It was already late at night in Pingying County, but the county government was still in the middle of the case. If what happened last night continued to happen in the city, then Pingying County would definitely not be the same. Chen Fei stood in the distance and shook the stone in his hand. He threw it with all his might, and the stone flew toward the county office. Chen Fei's figure flickered and disappeared from its spot. Chen Fei had already done what he could. The next step was to see how the county government would respond. Chapter 30. The Immortal Way. The entire day was calm and peaceful in Pingying County. Chen Fei was a bit puzzled. Could it be that the people at the county government didn't believe his message? This was possible. After all, such a sneaky method was difficult to win people's trust. However, at the very least, the county government should have sent someone to investigate. If they really investigated carefully, they could still find some clues. During the day, Chen Fei practiced the fierce mountain sword. Occasionally, he would study the pill formula of the light spirit pill to change his mind. The pill formula he obtained from Qi Defeng for the light spirit pill was complete nonsense, to put it bluntly. However, there were very few things that could be discerned from it. Fortunately, Chen Fei had the interface. After he simplified the pill formula for the light spirit pill, he obtained a set of pill refining methods for it. When refining each type of medicinal pill, there were many things that needed attention. At this time, he would use alchemy techniques to adjust the changes in the pill furnace. Thus, this set of pill refining techniques for the light spirit pill was still helpful to Chen Fei. However, he had to rely on himself to deduce the medicinal ingredients needed for it. Chen Fei thought that if he could buy a few more similar pill formulas and try to simplify them to see if he could add something else. However, it was a pity that there were very few people who were suitable for things like pill recipes. There would also not be any alchemists who would buy such a baffling pill recipe. If there were no transactions, naturally, no one would be so bored as to compile pill formulas. Those cultivation techniques and secret manuals could still be used for entertainment, but something as boring as pill formulas did not even have the effect of relieving boredom. Thus, when Chen Fei was not practicing his sword technique, he would take out the finished light spirit pill and analyze the composition of the medicinal ingredients within. Occasionally, he would refine a few furnaces to see the results. As night fell, Chen Fei practiced in the courtyard where he lived. This courtyard was no longer the original one. Sun Shu already knew about that residence, and his whereabouts were still unknown. Chen Fei did not want to be on guard all the time, so he figured he might as well change places to live. It would be more worry-free. Chen Fei held his long sword and moved around the courtyard. As the sword light flickered, sword chi vaguely surrounded him. Kill! Suddenly, a voice came from afar, causing Chen Fei to stop and turn his head towards the southeast, where a blazing fire was rising. Chen Fei furrowed his brows slightly as that direction was the hiding place of the mountain bandits. It seems that the county government has taken action. Chen Fei thought to himself. He stared at the distant blaze, intermittent sounds of fighting occasionally reaching his ears. Although the sounds were fragmented, Chen Fei could tell from the fierce and brutal sounds that were occurring. All the lights in the houses along the way were extinguished, indicating that the commotion had frightened many ordinary people who dared not make a sound. That group of mountain bandits has actually broken through the siege. Chen Fei frowned. The sounds of fighting began to spread to the surrounding area, showing that the county government had not succeeded in its mission. The sound of clashes came closer, with some of the mountain bandits rushing towards Chen Fei's direction while being chased by the county officials. Gradually, the sounds faded away, and everything slowly returned to calmness. Chen Fei put away his long sword and was about to return to his room when three figures suddenly jumped over the courtyard wall. Seeing Chen Fei in the courtyard, the three men were momentarily stunned. It's him. Jian Liang recognized Chen Fei as the physician he had met before. He was surprised to see him here, feeling that it was a strange coincidence. Who are you people? Chen Fei took a step back in nervousness, stumbling and falling to the ground. Kill him. Jian Liang ordered, then turned around cautiously to check if anyone was coming from outside. If there were any movements, they would have to run again as the county officials were still chasing after them. As for Chen Fei's previous act of saving him, Jian Liang didn't care at all. Last time, he let them go, even if it was being lenient. Now that he encountered them again, Jian Liang didn't reveal his true intentions and just wanted to kill them. PL please. As if he was in extreme fear, Chen Fei's cries for help sounded hoarse. The two bandits sneered and approached Chen Fei, their knives aimed at his head. Chi! The sound of blades piercing flesh came, and the two bandits froze, clutching their throats as blood gushed out uncontrollably. They couldn't even stop the bleeding with their hands. Het! Het! Their breaths were now mixed with blood, and they couldn't even speak. Their bodies collapsed with a dull thud. Jianliang turned around and saw Chen Fei holding a long sword, his previously frightened expression now replaced by extreme calmness. Jianliang looked at the two twitching bodies on the ground, squinted his eyes, and looked up at Chen Fei, saying, "I didn't expect to have underestimated you. Now you can size me seriously." Chen Fei lightly tapped the long sword, causing the blood on it to fly off. "How dare you!" Jianliang angrily shouted. His figure swayed as he appeared in front of Chen Fei, his knife becoming like a phantom as it appeared at Chen Fei's neck. Clang! The sound of blades clashing rang out, and Chen Fei was forced back a step. Jianliang was about to pursue, but Chen Fei's long sword had already stabbed toward his face. Sword qi rushed past, leaving a bloody gash on Jianliang's cheek, causing his hair to flutter. Jianliang's eyes showed a hint of surprise. He was almost killed by that sword qi just now. If he hadn't noticed something was wrong at the last moment and quickly dodged, he would have died. After the panic came extreme anger. The ant that he could easily have killed before, he had spared out of pity. But now he was almost killed in return. How could Jianliang tolerate it? Die! Jianliang roared, veins bulging on his forehead. The blade in his hand became like waves of the sea, whistling towards Chen Fei. With a dull sound, the blade struck Chen Fei's chest, causing him to slam into the courtyard wall and blood to flow from the corner of his mouth. "I'm going to peel off your flesh, piece by piece." Jianliang's eyes were bloodshot, his qi and blood surging to the extreme. In a few steps, he had arrived in front of Chen Fei, and his long sword fell again, making it sound like waves crashing in the air. "Soaring sword aura!" Chen Fei suddenly shouted, and waves of sword aura appeared on the blade. Jianliang's heart tightened, thinking of Chen Fei's previous sword qi. Now hearing the name of this domineering sword move, his long sword slowed down a bit involuntarily. Just then, Chen Fei's right foot stepped on the wall, and he appeared in the air. In the next moment, he was already running towards a distant place. Jianliang's eyes widened suddenly as he realized he had been tricked. His already angry state erupted, and his blood boiled so much that even blood droplets could be seen seeping out of his pores. Jianliang's figure shot out and caught up to Chen Fei's back in just a few steps. Die! Jianliang lifted his sword high, about to strike down when suddenly a bright light flashed before his eyes. Like a fleeting moment of a white horse, it was as if a divine being was pointing the way. Chapter 31. Cowhide. Jianliang's heart was cold, and he tried to dodge it but found that he couldn't move fast enough. This sword was too fast, so fast that it could only be seen as a flash of light. While Chen Fei's strength and reflexes were at most at the level of the body tempering realm, his swordsmanship was strong, especially since he had cultivated sword qi, which was amazing. But at this level, there shouldn't be such a sword technique appearing on Chen Fei's body. This kind of sword technique shouldn't appear in a place like Pingyang County. Even those aristocratic families in Pingyang County couldn't possibly have such a legacy. A bloody wound gaped in Jianliang's chest from front to back. Although it was not large, the injury was enough to be fatal. Jianliang's attack involuntarily weakened, and he fell off the wall, landing on the ground. What kind of sword technique is this? Jianliang looked up at Chen Fei with difficulty but only saw Chen Fei's expressionless face appearing in front of him, stabbing toward his head with the sword. Chi chi chi. 3 hidden weapons suddenly flew out from Jianliang's sleeve, but Chen Fei's sword qi flashed, knocking the hidden weapons down. That was when he saw Jianliang desperately running towards the distance. Chen Fei's feet flashed, and he caught up with Jianliang in a few steps. Jianliang felt the movement behind him and felt bitter in his heart. He had planned to delay a bit to get his hidden weapons out, but he didn't expect Chen Fei to completely see through his plan. Chen Fei wanted to kill him without so much as another word. This was not the kind of decision a small alchemist should make. However, the way he made it was even more stable than some old rivers and lakes. After all, when people are about to win, they are inevitably relaxed, even complacent, but Chen Fei didn't, he just wanted to kill him first. "Spare me, I will agree to any conditions you have." Jian Liang shouted loudly, but what he got was Chen Fei's sword piercing through his throat. Jian Liang wanted to dodge, but he was powerless. Chen Fei drew out his long sword, and Jian Liang fell weakly to the side of the road, staring at Chen Fei with deep resentment in his eyes. Chen Fei looked at him, without any fear or hesitation. A killer must be killed, this was Chen Fei's belief, and he would surely adhere to it. Jian Liang was not afraid of Chen Fei even if he was alive. Now that he was dying, what could a mere gaze do to Chen Fei? Jian Liang raised his finger and pointed at Chen Fei, seeming to want to say something, but in the end, his head fell helplessly to the side, and he breathed his last. Chen Fei went forward and searched Jian Liang's belongings. As one of the leaders of that group of mountain bandits, Jian Liang's wealth was definitely something. Apart from the money, Chen Fei was also very interested in Jian Liang's techniques. After a moment, a look of joy appeared on Chen Fei's face as he found a piece of cowhide, densely written with many characters. Chen Fei couldn't help but think of the faint sound of waves that echoed when Jian Liang attacked just now. Warriors generally store their incomplete martial arts techniques close to their bodies, as they are uneasy leaving them elsewhere. They can also take them out from time to study and gain insight, furthering their cultivation. Chen Fei stuffed the parchment into his chest and continued to search, but suddenly footsteps could be heard approaching. As Chen Fei lowered his head, his expression changed rapidly. His eyes elongated into phoenix eyes, and several more wounds appeared on his face. His body also grew slightly in size, all in a silent moment. "Third brother." The pained voice sounded as Ling Hanjun looked at Chen Fei in disbelief, with Jian Liang lying in a pool of blood in front of him. The two had escaped from the encirclement together and hid in a few courtyards, ready to assist each other in case of unexpected circumstances. However, when Ling Hanjun heard a commotion from Jian Liang's location, he rushed over only to find Jian Liang already dead. He hadn't died in the hands of the constables but rather here. "I will kill you." Ling Hanjun went crazy, brandishing his big knife and charging toward Chen Fei. The other bandits also rushed towards him, ready to support Ling Hanjun. Chen Fei had already taken the silver from Jian Liang's pocket and glanced at Ling Hanjun. His figure flashed, and he was already running towards a distant place. In terms of essence, Chen Fei was still just in the body-tempering realm, and his strength and reaction time were inferior to those of bone-tempering warriors. If it weren't for the immortal Wei sword technique, he wouldn't have been able to kill Jian Liang at all. In a prolonged battle, Jian Liang could have worn him down. In the face of Ling Hanjun, who was stronger than Jian Liang, and the surrounding bandits, Chen Fei knew he had lost his mind to confront them head-on. "Over there, chase after him." The constable's voice suddenly came from behind. Chen Fei's expression changed slightly, considering whether to intercept these bandits for a while so that he could join forces with the constables to kill them. However, he immediately dismissed the idea. Apart from the fact that Ling Hanjun was now full of grief and indignation and would fight to the death, risking the danger of being encircled, he would also probably kill Chen Fei first. The constables, who didn't recognize Chen Fei, would also see him as a bandit and surround him together. Chen Fei stepped on the roof tiles, and they were undamaged as he ran several meters. Such a body technique was enough to make more than 90% of bone-tempering warriors sweat. At this moment, the bandits were chasing behind him, but the gap was widening. Ling Hanjun's eyes were bloodshot, and he wished he could tear Chen Fei apart. However, he could only watch as the distance between them continued to increase. "I will kill you even if it's the last thing I do." Ling Hanjun roared and turned around, running in another direction. Chasing them any further would not yield any significant results, and his men would be sacrificed. Ling Hanjun could only swallow his anger. After a while, Chen Fei lost track of the bandits. Clearly, I'd overestimated myself. Returning to the courtyard with the alchemy room, Chen Fei sat under the eaves and looked up at the starry sky. Last time in the dark market, he was able to follow that group of bandits because he didn't really intend to. But today, those bandits must have used various methods to evade being chased. Apart from being superior in body skills, Chen Fei's ability in both vision and tracking is actually mediocre. If he still acted like a tail, those bandits would probably have been caught by the yamen already. Should I find a book to enhance my vision or learn tracking techniques? Chen Fei was tempted, but when he thought about the tasks he had arranged now, he couldn't help but sigh. Time-wise, Chen Fei was really squeezed. This matter can only be planned later when he has some free time. Chen Fei took out Jianliang's money bag and opened it, feeling somewhat disappointed. It was estimated that the stolen silver was hidden elsewhere, and there were only a few dozen pieces of broken silver in the bag. If it were before, Chen Fei would have been happy. But now that he has succeeded in alchemy, this amount of money is no longer satisfactory. He burned the money bag in the fire and opened the piece of cowhide. Chapter 32. Suppressing Dragon Elephant. The cowhide was likely very old, rubbed by many hands, and appeared smooth. But even so, the overall material of the cowhide was still undamaged. Seems like this isn't ordinary yellow cowhide. Could it be from a demonic beast? Chen Fei's mind flashed with some bizarre tales. Rumors had it that in this world, besides the supernatural, there were also demonic beasts. Similar to human cultivators, demonic beasts could also cultivate themselves, possessing not only spiritual wisdom but also extremely powerful strength. However, there were no demonic beasts in Pingying County, only frequent occurrences of the supernatural. After an hour, Chen Fei rubbed his eyes and lifted his head. He had finished reading the techniques on the cowhide, but Chen Fei was a bit puzzled. No matter how he looked at it, this was completely different from ordinary cultivation techniques. If Chen Fei were to practice this normally, he wasn't even sure how to start. He also wondered how Jianliang was able to comprehend the magnificent and powerful techniques of the cowhide. Or perhaps Jianliang's techniques weren't even from this cowhide but from some other source. It was just that Jianliang knew the techniques recorded on the cowhide were precious, so he carried it with him and studied it occasionally. Chen Fei looked at the cowhide and tried to tear it with some force, but the cowhide didn't budge. Chen Fei's expression slightly changed as he took out his sword and pressed it against the cowhide, exerting force. In the end, Chen Fei put forth all his strength, but the cowhide remained undamaged. No wonder he kept the cowhide over his heart. I suppose he knew of the cowhide's defensive capabilities. Chen Fei realized suddenly. But in the end, Jianliang wasn't able to utilize the cowhide's defense. Chen Fei's first sword pierced Jianliang's chest, and the second went through his throat. At that moment, Chen Fei's instinctual thought was that many people would protect their hearts, but he didn't expect to hit it by accident. Technique, suppressing dragon elephant, not yet mastered. 50,000 silver taels is such an exorbitant simplification fee. Chen Fei gritted his teeth as he looked at the information displayed on the interface. However, this also indirectly reflected the immense power and difficulty of this technique. Chen Fei's current killing move, the Immortal Way, only cost him 500 silver taels at the beginning. This was a difference of 100 times. Based on Chen Fei's current earning speed, he would need to accumulate for a very long time, and he cannot spend on anything. It seems that I won't be able to cultivate it in a short time. Chen Fei shook his head helplessly. The next morning, several heads hung on the gate of the north city of Pingying County, with Jianliang's head among them. Pingying County's reaction was intense, especially for some of the migrant refugees who had particularly ugly expressions. Some were bandits, while others were petty thieves. Pingying County's attitude was also clear, to intimidate. Immediately after the crime was committed, Pingying County dispatched people to encircle and kill. Although many had escaped, they had also killed many. In particular, Jianliang's head made some bandits tremble with fear. This is the third leader, who had escaped the encirclement yesterday evening, but unexpectedly ended up dying in the end. Big brother, why don't we retreat from Pingyang County first? Third brother was blocked last time, and this time it's even worse. There should be a tracker in Pingyang County, and our simple disguises can't escape their eyes. I haven't avenged third brother yet, and you want me to leave now? Ling Hanjun's gaze suddenly turned fierce. I'm just worried. Smack. With a muffled sound, Ling Hanjun slapped the person down and interrupted his words. Find out that person's identity by any means necessary, I want him to pay with his own blood. Ling Hanjun roared, looking at the trembling appearance of the others. He took a deep breath and said, leave a few people here, and others will leave the city in batches. The others didn't dare to disobey and agreed and began to search for the person who killed Jianliang. As night fell, Chen Fei changed his appearance and appeared in the dark market. However, Chen Fei did not see a trace of those bandits, mainly because he only remembered a few people who had left an impression on him, and it was difficult to identify them with their disguises. Failing to obtain the desired information, Chen Fei unexpectedly saw a reward poster, which showed his own face that he had deliberately changed last night. Anyone who provided useful information could get 1,000 taels, and anyone who captured him could get 5,000 taels. This was a huge reward that few could resist. This black market obviously has the backing of the county government, and those bandits actually posted the reward here. Chen Fei shook his head slightly, indicating how much those bandits wanted to kill him. Turning around and leaving the black market, he was followed by a tail. Chen Fei deliberately circled a few times before shaking them off. Back in the courtyard, Chen Fei began to practice swordsmanship. Since those bandits couldn't find him, Chen Fei didn't have any other means to find them either. Fortunately, the bandits' attention was all focused on finding him, and the city was now fully guarded, so he should be able to have a few peaceful days. As time passed, the refugees gradually became true residents of Pingyang County, and the county became more stable. No one was killed at night anymore, except for the reward poster of those bandits, which had now increased to 8,000 taels. It seemed that all the martial artists were attracted by this reward poster. It was no wonder, the reward was just too much. What are they really after? Is it for that piece of cowhide? Chen Fei suddenly realized that the technique recorded on it was truly amazing. After he read it last time, he had already forgotten most of it, and he estimated that he would forget it completely after some time. After discovering this phenomenon, Chen Fei deliberately wrote down the suppressing dragon elephant technique on paper. However, something that made Chen Fei gasp in surprise happened. The words on those pieces of paper would mysteriously lose a few words the next day. What's the principle behind this? Chen Fei was confused. No wonder the technique had to be recorded on this cowhide and kept close. Before learning the technique, he would have to read this cowhide several times. I have an interface, and the technique is already recorded. Can I sell this cowhide? Chen Fei contemplated silently, realizing that he had gained yet another understanding of this world. However, the cowhide scroll seemed to have no buyers in Pingyang County. Or even if there were buyers, how could Chen Fei protect the silver taels he earned after selling it? For now, let's just use it as a protective charm. Chen Fei shook his head and put the matter aside, immersing himself in the practice of swordsmanship. As time passed, he had already incorporated the third set of sword techniques, and his level of swordsmanship became higher and higher. While his cultivation remained steady, he still couldn't break through to the bone tempering stage in a short time. However, he was gradually making progress in experimenting with the light spirit pill. Perhaps in a while, he would be able to refine it himself. Come out and follow me. The door of the alchemy room was kicked open, and Zhang Yuezhen walked in, catching sight of Chen Fei's exploding furnace. Disturbance during alchemy is prohibited. This is the rule of the clinic. Chen Fei's face turned a little ugly. The rule of the North City Medical Center is what I say it is. Zhang Yuejin interrupted Chen Fei's words with a wave of her hand, showing no respect. Don't say those useless things, go to the Zhang mansion. Hurry up, or else the eldest miss will blame you, and you won't be able to bear the consequences. Dan Xiang urged Chen Fei impatiently. Part 2 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.